Hey, Spider Nerds, welcome to the SpiderNerd.com podcast. I'm your host and webmaster, Jonathan Weber, and joining me today for the panel, we have Mr. James Markin.
Sup, dudes?
What is up with you, James?
Just had a crazy week. I went on a few comic book sites and I ordered a few of the essentials that I had lost from when I moved because the moving company lost them. So I was able to reorder Volume 2 and 4 and 5, so that's awesome. So I got that coming in the mail in the next few days. Had the crazy-ass drama with the Power Ranger fandom that happened with the Morphin Madness game. And if you want to find out more about that, just tune in to AGR tonight because it gets really bad.
Angel Grove Radio. That's what it's called.
Literally, you guys think the drama with the Spider-Man fan base is bad. You guys will not believe how bad this got. The actor who played Tommy in the original series got involved with it. Now people hate him. The toy company got involved with it. Now people are afraid not to buy the toys.
Whoa, hold the damn phone. That guy was awesome, the Tommy guy.
Yeah, and because of that, people balanced up who's the most popular Ranger ever to be anti-him. And then he complained about it, and then so they took away all the votes that were ballot stuffers against him, but they kept all the ones that were pro him that were double. People just keep on redoing it over and over and over again. So now he's up by like 1,000 points landslide on everybody else.
Nice. All right. Also today for the panel we have Mr. Thomas Patterson.
What's up, everybody?
What's up with you, Thomas? What you been up to this week?
Well, it was spring break for me, so I got to play a little bit of Marvel Heroes. It was a pretty fun week.
Damn it, I wish I had spring break this week, but my spring break was like 2 weeks ago, and technically it wasn't even a real spring break. It was technically a 5-day weekend because whatever. I'm not going to rant about it here on the podcast. This is not
for you, dude.
Not the time or the place for it. All right, but tackling news now, we've got 6 news stories that we're going to talk about today. And I'd say this is the biggest piece of Spider-Man news to come out this week. Dan Slott and Nick Lowe unveiled Spider-Verse. Basically, this is going to be the biggest storyline of the year. This is this year's big storyline, and it's also going to cross over into next year, if what I read was correct. It's going to go from November to through January. But basically the storyline will begin in November of this year, and it will feature every Spider-Man ever. And by this, they literally mean every Spider-Man, from comics to animation to whatever. If he's Spider-Man, he's in there. So I guess we'll just get everyone's general thoughts on this, and then we can go through it in a little bit more detail. So Thomas, we'll let you go first. What are your overall thoughts on Spider-Verse?
I think it sounds like a really cool idea in general to kind of, bring in every Spider-Man from all these different universes and everything. The only issue that I really have with it is I'm concerned how they're going to fit everyone in there, because this almost seems like one of the issues that people have with the X-Men franchise is that they just throw in a whole bunch of heroes or mutants that everybody knows just for like quick cameos and, hey, I know that guy. And so I'm kind of a little concerned that it's just going to be like, there's going to be like 3 or 4 Spider-Men that we all know about, and they're just going to be thrown to the side in like a panel, and then we're never going to see them again.
All right, James, thoughts on Spider-Verse?
Oh, me?
Yes, you.
Pretty much, I like it. From what I can hear so far, it's pretty cool. This is the poster and point. Okay, I know that Spider-Man. I don't know who that Spider-Man is. I can't wait to see who he is. Oh, that guy's in there. That guy's in there. What the hell is this one doing in there? My only beef is they are promoting this as every Spider-Man ever, and they even said like the Ultimate cartoon, and they hint that the '60s cartoon will be in there. Maybe Nicholas Hammond and the Japanese Spider-Man. But they kind of outright said when they go, well, those Sony rights, that, well, you're going to get every Spider-Man ever, including other medias, except the Sony properties, which are probably the biggest ones, which are Spectacular and the 2 movies, Peter Parker. So that's kind of a downer. But besides that, every other Spider-Man, I am so excited to see. Spider-Ham, maybe a married, pre-One More Day kind of Spider-Man who's married with Mary Jane. That would be awesome in there. Of course, Ultimate with Miles Morales. That's just going to be a really great issues, I think. It's going to be awesome.
Basically, what it's spanning over is 6 issues of Amazing Spider-Man plus other titles and miniseries that are going to be started up throughout this book, or not throughout this book, throughout this storyline, I should say. I don't know why I just said book there, but throughout the storyline, it's going to go through multiple titles, but the main story will be encaptured in 6 issues of Amazing Spider-Man. I believe it's Amazing Spider-Man 9 through 14. I don't hold me to those issue numbers, but I think that's what it's going to be. But a few quotes from Dan Slott here. He said, "This is every Spider-Man ever teaming up or fighting each other." And Slott later added that we will see some spider fights. Some won't get a long time in the issues. It's a Spider-Man story on a scale we've never seen before. It's epic in its scope. Oliver Copelli will be doing the art, which is said to have already been started. And on the front page, on the front page news topic, I do have some preview art from the actual story, which I do want to get your guys' thoughts on. What are your thoughts on the preview art for Spider-Verse here?
Morlun. He's coming back, so that should be interesting. I'm actually one of those people that actually likes that villain because we haven't seen a lot of new villains in general. I feel like a lot of the main Spider-Man mainstays are like the ones that Stan Lee, Steve Ditko introduced. So I'm definitely interested to see, someone new. And every time Spider-Man seems to be like in like every other villain that he's ever had, I've always felt like he could beat. And it seems like Morlun's the only one that can really actually give him a run for his money in the end of it.
Have you ever read the JMS run, Thomas?
Yeah, I've read a little bit of it. Yeah, I actually really like it personally.
I've never read the JMS run, but I hear that there was a big Morlun story in that. Have you read that actual specific story?
Yes, I have.
Can you describe it for the listeners who maybe haven't read it?
Okay, so basically what happens is you have this guy named Iskall, and he is, I can't remember exactly how they meet, but Peter and Iskall meet, and Iskall has this as spider powers, and so basically what he explains to Spider-Man is that it wasn't an accident, it was all fate, and there's spider totems and spider people out there, like, that, and then Morlun is this guy who wants to destroy this totem. And so Morlun's going to come to New York to kill Spider-Man, and he actually beats him really badly, and Spider-Man manages to somehow defeat him, but Iskall ends up dead, or dead in quotations, because he eventually comes back, because this is, comics. And so he ends up, and then at the end of the issue, Aunt May finds his shredded costume to take it for the laundry. And so that's where the cliffhanger ends, except the next issue, it starts with the 9/11 issue, and then the issue after that is Aunt May talking to Peter about how she found out who he was.
All right. James, what are your thoughts on Morlun?
I liked him as a villain in the 2 appearances he had before in Spider-Man. Some people didn't really like him, but because they overpowered him, people said, but you needed to do that because his whole beef is he wants to kill spider-themed superheroes, so he has to give Peter Parker a challenge. He's not just giving some easy guy he can web up in one issue. And I'm happy that he's back because, like you guys have said, like besides like Hobgoblin and Carnage and Venom, not many non-Steve Ditko, John Romita era villains stick. And so having Morlun making a big appearance with another writer can probably begin the path of maybe some more of these guys being added to the Rogues Gallery as classic, iconic villains that keep on reappearing again and again and again, instead of being gone as soon as that writer's off the title. And I actually kind of enjoyed Morlun's second story arc with JMS than his first, which was The Other, which was, some people got confused by it, but I thought it was a pretty good 12-issue run, that story.
Where Peter got his eye knocked out of his head, and then he ended up dying and then being resurrected.
Is that actually a canon story, like in the main universe?
Yeah.
Well, yes, but there are some people that speculate that it's not really canon anymore because of One More Day. There's a lot of strange powers he got. Well, he got a lot of strange powers that he hasn't used since then.
Yeah, but he used one of those powers brand new day because that was like confirmed. Like it was like near the end of that run, but he used them, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, here's the thing with me. The 2000s in terms of Spider-Man are my weak spot. I haven't gotten to that point in the back issues yet. I'm actually 2 issues away from the reboot in my back issue reading.
Oh, yeah.
So I haven't gotten there yet, but from what I hear, the 2000s are kind of a cluster F.
Oh.
It's the GMS era when he became the main writer, Amazing after Mackie. It gets really good. It's just near the end of his run, he got hit with, okay, you got 2 new Spider-Man titles, which are Sensational and Friendly Neighborhood that are debuting, so we're going to this big arc called The Other. Okay, you're going to write this with 2 other writers. Then when he got done with that arc, it was Civil War. You have to unmask Peter Parker and fit it in with this. Then you got Spider-Man 3 come out, slated Back in Black. Okay, now you got to fit a storyline with him in the black suit. And then the next arc was One More Day. Okay, you got to end the marriage. Okay, goodbye, get out of here.
Yeah, then brand new. I still say it's like, even though I haven't read it, so maybe this is a completely stupid statement, but I still say Civil War is where the books went to crap.
I actually read Civil War, and it's not that bad, but see, the whole thing is that it was a lot of editorial meddling, and if anything, the solo title for Spider-Man, it actually portrayed him and Captain America way more in character than it did in the Civil War miniseries that they had, where Captain America was basically being a jerk, like his Ultimate Universe version, where he let Peter die, just saying. It's just... he was portrayed more as that, and then the Civil War was pretty good up until the point where they shot Aunt May and then started to move the shooting Aunt May as a reason to get rid of the marriage, which was clearly editorial meddling with the title, and it really screwed up the end.
Well, look at this. One Moment in Time, the sequel story that explained, okay, how in the One More Day, Brandon Day continuity did all the events of One More Day happen. Peter saved her by giving her basic CPR. Okay, Doctor Strange and One More Day couldn't save her. Reed Richards, Doctor Doom, Octavius, all these other people could not do anything to save her except Mephisto. But then we find out that in One Moment in Time, all Peter needed to do was basic CPR.
Yeah, that's... Well, One Moment in Time was very... I would say it's a weak storyline to fix the problems with another weak storyline. So,
all right,
made it worse if you ask some people.
All right, getting back on the topic of Spider-Verse here. Any final thoughts on it before we move on?
I'm really excited for Moreland. I'm actually kind of interested to see how they're going to tie in all these Spider-Men, because that's a lot of Spider-Men. He has had so many incarnations, so we'll see how that works out. And one other question that I'm having is, does Sony have the rights to Moreland to have him in a movie eventually?
I'm sure they do, because they got the rights. They got the rights to Spider-Woman because of it. Like, even the one that's in the Avengers, they got her rights. That's why she's not in the Avenger movies, is because anything that involves Spider-Man is Sony.
Really? Because... Well, I guess that would make sense. I guess they have all the spider-themed characters with them.
Yeah, because when Avengers came out, there was some article with somebody who said that Spider-Woman you will not see in a movie because her rights are with Sony. Because when Sony bought the Spider-Man rights, they did not just want the Spider-Man characters; they wanted anybody with the name Spider in the title.
So they probably have Moreland. Well, that'd be interesting to see if they ever brought that to the screen, considering that this whole franchise has basically been set up on the fact that Spider-Man's powers weren't an accident. But back on to Spider-Verse, I think it's a interesting and unique idea, and I'm interested to see how it plays out.
All right, James, final thoughts?
Pretty much mostly what he said. I just am really excited that if they do end up pulling a twist and the movie Peter Parker's on there and you got Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield Spider-Man swinging in that series, I will personally go to Marvel and shake Dan Slott and all their hands, because that would just be awesome to see the movie Spider-Mans and the comic Spider-Man. Because I think everybody had this idea of fanfic of how would this ultimate battle royal team up would be with all the Spider-Mans in continuity, and now we're actually going to see it.
Awesome.
I don't know if they would be able to do Andrew Garfield, but I think Tobey Maguire, since that franchise is done, might actually work out. But I don't think that Andrew Garfield would work, because then you'd have to reference it in the current film franchise. But since Tobey Maguire's film franchise is wrapped up, you could probably do it that way.
I would just be excited if the Japanese Spider-Man from their series appeared, because that would just be hilarious having this big, gigantic Megazord come out for the battle.
Yep.
Jeez. All right, my thoughts on Spider-Verse. I think it's a cool idea. It will depend on how the execution of it goes down. I mean, this could turn out to be a train wreck. But I'm gonna think positive, and I'm excited for this storyline. It's debuting in Amazing Spider-Man number 9, I think.
Yep.
So that's November of this year. So I'm anxiously awaiting it, and we'll see what goes on with it. All right. I guess the second biggest piece of news this week is that Spider-Man 2099 is getting his own ongoing that will be launching in July. Shocker. We all didn't know that already.
Shock.
Oh yeah. I didn't even get that until about 5 seconds after you said it. But the book will be written by classic Spidey 2099 writer Peter David and drawn by artist, I'm going to butcher this name, Will Sliney. I don't know if I pronounced that right. I'm sorry. But Peter David spoke about the series in an interview. He said that Miguel is going to be endeavoring to reform Tiberius Stone to make him into someone who cares about other people and might actually do a better job of raising Tyler Stone and thus make Miguel's life easier. Not to mention that he will try to exert influence over what sort of company Alchemax develops into. So I guess we'll go around the panel. Thoughts on 2099 ongoing. James, you go first.
It sounds like it can be very interesting. I never really read Spider-Man 29 when I was a kid, but I know people who have, and they absolutely love it, and I'm sure as soon as they find out about this news, they're going to be the first ones there to buy it when it comes out. I like the idea that they're going to do it, how he's going to try to do like almost Back to the Future, change this guy to be a nicer guy, that way the future's a better place for him. And that's going to be a kind of cool twist of him trying to make this guy's a better life, so that way the ripple effect will cause everything in the future to be better. And, of course, probably Miguel's going to make it worse, or he's going to be the one that causes the events of 2099. I'm calling that right now. Pretty much that I was going to say something else. I can't remember. If I come back and remember what I was going to say, somebody else can go first.
All right, Thomas, thoughts on Spider-Man 2099?
I think it's a pretty solid idea. Basically, it's been set up before we have Spider-Man 2099 in the present day, which is definitely an interesting kind of dilemma for it, and we heard a while ago that we might be getting one. In fact, even, what was his name? Wacker. He hinted at this pretty heavily in one of the letters pages, so we knew this was probably coming for a little while, and I'm really excited because I really do like Spider-Man 2099. I think he is different enough to warrant another title that people will actually pick up, and at the same time stay in continuity with the whole thing. The only thing that I have, though, is that the reason he even went back in time was because he was seen going back in time. So I think that if anything, the story's endpoint is going to be he actually was Miguel O'Mara, or whatever he's calling himself.
Michael O'Mara?
Yeah, Michael O'Mara has actually started this kind of trend towards what becomes Alchemax at the end, like James said.
All right, and my thoughts on 2099 ongoing. I'll be quite honest. I'll just say this right now. Put Peter David's name on it. You have my money. You have my money. I swear.
Shut up and take my money.
Shut up and take my damn money. Is that the first swear word I've said in this podcast?
Yeah, you're doing a pretty good job.
18 minutes, new record!
Yeah.
You want to know something? I wouldn't really count damn as a swear word. I don't really count it as that.
Yeah, because I remember this from when I was a kid. I don't know why, but they said it in Shrek. They said it in the first Shrek movie, and that was PG, so whatever.
Yeah.
But you know what? You put Peter David's name on a Spider-Man book, you have my money. So go around the panel. Thomas, you picking this up?
Oh, yeah, almost definitely. I think that Spider-Man 2099 is one of the more interesting characters to come from the 90s era, and so I'm sold, especially with Peter David.
James, you picking it up?
Yeah, I think I will. It depends on if, my budget and stuff like that for comic books are going to be around that time period, but if it all goes according to well, I'm definitely going to pick this up. And I remember what I was going to say. What I was going to say was, do you guys think, because this is coming out in July, is this the other satellite title they were talking about? Or do you think that it's something else then, what they were talking about with Spider-Verse? How they said they're going to launch a satellite title. Is this it, or is it something else coming later?
I'm not sure. I mean, I know they were a couple weeks ago we talked about how they were talking about a new Spider-Man title. that was going to be released around summertime. That's probably what this is. I'm not sure if it's a Spider-Verse title, though.
Yeah, they had a Spider-Verse satellite title that they were, kind of teasing. So I'm interested to see what that's going to be. It'll probably be, no, it's not going to be Ultimate Miles Morales because he has his own series. So we'll see. I don't know. It sounds interesting.
All right, and wrapping up the comics news for this week, we got concept art for a villain named Clash, who's going to appear in Amazing Spider-Man Learning to Crawl. My thoughts on this news, I'm just going to say this. This guy looks like he should be on a Cartoon Network show. That was the first thing I thought when I saw this concept art was Cartoon Network, particularly Derek Wyatt, him drawing him. I don't know if anyone knows who that is, but if you do, you obviously had a good childhood. But you know what? I like the design of this guy. I'm not opposed to it. I think he looks fairly good. He does kind of look like a mix of Spider-Man and Electro a little bit because he's got the lightning bolts and he's got the eyes and everything. But it also looks like his chest is trying to hypnotize you because it's got those swirls in it. So I don't know what that's about, but whatever. So James, we'll start with you. Thoughts on Clash?
He looks like he could be very interesting. I agree with you. He looks like something you would see out of like Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon or something like that. But I can say it's fitting because this is supposed to be Amazing Fantasy 15 era Spider-Man. So having a kind of really basic looking villain, I think it kind of makes sense because they probably want him to look similar to the more kind of basic early Ditko designs.
That's probably true because Learning to Crawl is supposed to take place in the first 60 days of Peter Parker's career as Spider-Man. So what is that, like Amazing Fantasy 15 through Amazing number 2, I guess? Probably.
Yeah.
All right, Thomas.
Because each issue takes place 1 month after the other.
Thomas, thoughts on Clash?
I think it looks cool. Kind of in line with, what we saw during that time period, the kind of costume designs. So I buy it. I think it'll be pretty cool. Didn't they talk about a villain that was going to come back from this kind of story, that it was going to have a big effect later in the other comics? I can't remember.
I don't remember hearing anything like that, but it's possible. You never know with Marvel.
Yeah, well, so this might be the guy. It sounds interesting enough, and sure, I'll probably I'll buy it for now.
So we got me and Thomas buying this book. James, are you going to pick up Learning to Crawl?
Yeah, I'm going to pick it up.
All right, so all three of us are picking up Learning to Crawl, so that's good. But moving off of comic news and moving on to movie news now, we got 3 little pieces of movie news here. Well, actually 2 pieces of movie news and 1 piece of video game news. But one of the pieces of movie news is actually for the spoiler section, but so we're actually going to have 1 piece. But Emma Stone recently did an interview in Entertainment Weekly, and she discussed all the speculation surrounding Gwen Stacy's fate in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Basically, to quote Emma Stone, she said, "There are things that I know about that haven't been seen yet. There are also things that people are speculating on that I know aren't true. There will be surprises." And she also said, talking about the supposed spoilers being released of the film, she said, "I was really upset. I feel hyper-protective over the secrecy of what happens to Gwen. I was like, why did we shoot out on the street? I was upset for a day, and then I realized there's nothing else we can do. There's stuff out there." The biggest thing that I took away from this interview was that Emma Stone actually gives a crap about this character, and she really does love the story of Gwen Stacy. I think that's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I found it funny, though, how she said, I feel hyper-protective over the secrecy of what happens to Gwen. I remember talking to Ryan Seacrest and basically saying that they were going on the road to the fate that she had in the comics, is exactly what she said. And so I'm a little surprised that she would say something like this, because she's been clearly hinting at it for quite a while, even since before the first Amazing Spider-Man came out.
Yeah, I mean, she's done interviews saying, "Oh my gosh, Gwen's got to die. Gwen Stacy got to die because that's how the comics go."
She said that's why she did the role. It's because of the death or something like that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's like, so this is kind of a contradictory interview because it's like, oh, I don't want people to know, but at the same time, I'm going to tell people exactly what's going to happen or what I want to happen.
I want to be the one to tell the world. I want to be the one to tell the world, not some bunch of lazy people that sit in their basement and post this stuff all over the internet.
Well, she would never say that.
I think that.
But I think that's what she's basically insinuating here.
But she would never say that. Emma Stone's too sweet. Don't try to backsass me.
I think it'd be kind of funny if she did, though.
Oh my gosh, it would be the most epic thing ever, but I don't think she would.
No. She depends on this audience to go see the movie, so you can't afford to insult them or offend them in any way.
Yeah,
these are the guys that do the repeat viewings, bro.
Yeah, these are the guys who go and see the movie about 4 times in 1 week. Me!
Not me. Me.
All right, James, thoughts on the Emma Stone interview?
It was like you guys basically said. I think she is going to die, and this is just damage control by having her come out and say, nobody knows what's going to happen, and then the next thing she goes, well, I'm getting tired of people leaking what's going to happen on the internet. Wait, so either it's rumors and nobody knows what's going to happen, or people are leaking actual spoilers. It can't be both.
I think it actually could. Is that she's basically saying there's a whole bunch of twists and turns, but that like people are basically insinuating the end game, but she's hoping that there are going to be a lot of surprises on how they end up killing her. So I'm thinking they're probably going to pull a couple fake outs with the audience for a little bit and then play with them and toy with them, and then at the end they'll get the payoff.
We're going to go over in the spoilers. I think pretty much confirms that they're going to go with a lot of twists and turns and fake outs for it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But we'll talk about this more in the spoiler news. But final thoughts on this Emma Stone interview?
Well, not really anything new except for the contradictory statement that she made about how she feels hyperprotective. I don't think that is very true at all. I think she was the one who was actually spoiling it in the first place, but
the audio commentary for the first movie, they brought up how they were hinting at the death there.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
I've actually listened to the audio commentary on the Blu-ray for the first movie. I listened to it like a year ago, and it was one time, but I do remember them talking about that.
Yeah, it's during the lizard fight when Peter throws her out the window and so she can web to safety. He goes, well, anybody who reads the comic would know that that's probably a hint at the future for Gwen Stacy in these movies.
See, I never thought that when I saw that scene. When I saw that scene, I was just laughing.
I kind of did, because it's the image of him catching her while she's falling off what's basically a bridge on the school. So I just took it as like a little homage to the death, going, oh, look, there's a little homage to how she died in the comics. And then you go to the audio commentary, and then he basically outright says, yeah, that's a reference to possibly the future fate of Gwen Stacy here in the movies. I go, she's going to die.
I never felt like when I saw that scene that it was hinting at anything. I always just thought it was like, trying to get her out, and it was a cute little scene, but I never really thought of it as, oh, the bridge is there, he's catching her. I just never thought of it that way, but I guess it's an interesting homage. It just didn't seem dangerous enough for her that it would pay homage to that, but...
Well, it's not supposed to be. It's just her literally falling off a bridge and him catching her. That's all it's supposed to be. It wasn't meant to be big, major plot point.
Yeah. All right. Final thoughts on the Emma Stone interview. Basically, it's kind of contradictory, but the photo I put on the front page news article is gorgeous once again. I'm sorry, I have to throw that in there.
Just go to Hollywood and get her phone number already, because you are just hinting the whole time I have known you that you just want to get a date with her.
Okay, all right. Listen. Andrew Garfield's going out with her, so Jonathan's gonna have to, do a little something to Andrew Garfield, tie him up and throw him in a closet.
I respect Andrew Garfield so much. I would not touch her as long as they're dating.
You know what?
Whoa!
The reason is, I'm not saying that because Emma Stone's bad. I love Emma Stone, not literally. But I respect Andrew Garfield too much to...
You know what you should do?
But you think you'd be able to touch her? Come on, bro. Get real.
He has it all mapped out in his head. As soon as they break up, I'm moving to Hollywood. I'm going to bump into her. We're going to fall in love.
Then we're going to have 8 babies.
Have kids. We're all together. It'll be awesome. I get to live on all the Spider-Man original she gets.
All right, little kids who are listening to the podcast, skip ahead 5 seconds. Fuck both of you.
No, Thomas, even better. He switches minds with Andrew Garfield to become the superior Andrew Garfield.
Oh yeah.
No! You did not just make that as... Oh my gosh.
To be your fanboy to Andrew Garfield, and you get to have his girl.
And you also get to play Spider-Man. What's even better than that?
That's what I said. The first...
Last week we made fun of Thomas, now we're making fun of me. James, you're up next.
Yep, all right. John, I'm sending you an email. We have to brainstorm something.
Oh, jeez. I don't even want to...
Brainstorm!
Okay. So, tackling video game news now. Thomas, I'm going to throw you on the spot for this because I know you watched this and I didn't. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 game walkthrough trailer. Will you kind of walk through it for us? See what I did there?
Well, it starts off obviously with like the rating. It's got the mild blood, mild suggestive themes, violence, and then you have to go through the extremely long Beanox logo.
Okay,
and
no one cares about that. Get to the damn good stuff.
Okay, fine. So the walkthrough starts off by Thomas Wilson basically explaining that this is their game, and then it's basically Spider-Man jumping off a building and then going web swinging, which is I guess it's better because what they do is they have his right hand contributed to the right trigger. So like if you press the right trigger, his right hand will go up, and then if you press the left trigger, his left hand will go up and spin a web. So like you could theoretically, I guess, maybe, I don't know how exactly that works, but like if there's a building on your left, then you would use the left. If there's a building on your right, then you would do it that way. But so they overhauled the web swing mechanic to be more like Spider-Man 2. And, the basic upgrade system that we got in The Amazing Spider-Man. And now we have Peter Parker as well. And they have 15 costumes that you'll unlock in missions, so that should be interesting. And then instead of doing like the indoor missions like in the first one, what they're going to do is they're going to have, people just kind of go, and you can approach the mission from wherever you want, which is cool, I guess. And the stealth mechanic is basically ripped right out of the Batman Arkham games, and the combat is basically ripped right out of the Batman Arkham games as well. But it's more like the basic, painted over rip-off. The one cool thing that I saw though is Spider-Man with his web, with his spider sense, is that he can sense enemies and then it goes away. So that should be kind of interesting and an interesting playthrough. But I'll probably be picking this up. But if you didn't like the first Spider-Man game, you probably won't like this one.
All right, James, thoughts on the walkthrough trailer?
Yeah, I watched it. I thought it was pretty good. I like how it still feels like a classic Spider-Man video game, but they are throwing elements from like the like you said, the Arkham games and other superhero games that have come out the last few years. So that's pretty cool about it. I don't really have much to say about it, though, because I like to play the video games, but I don't really get too hyper about behind the scenes and walkthrough trailers and stuff like that. I mostly just wait till my buddy Zach, who's a big video game fan. If he tells me the thing's an up and a pretty good game, I know it's got to be pretty good, so I try it.
All right, I didn't actually watch this trailer. I actually forgot to. So I don't really have any comments on it. So final thoughts on the walkthrough trailer, anybody?
I mean, like, it's basically what we've already been told from the developers. They're just basically giving us, all the features just while playing it, which is pretty cool, I guess, but it'd be even better if I was playing it. Just saying, but, looking forward to the game. I'll probably pick it up.
When does it come out again?
April 29th.
Which is a Tuesday.
Which is the Tuesday before the
Tuesday before the
movie
film
comes out.
Tuesday before the film, and the day before Amazing Spider-Man #1 comes out. So, there you go.
Yep.
It's going to be a good week for Spider-Man.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to move off of our news topics, well, our non-spoiler news topics anyway. We do have one piece of spoiler news, but that is going to be saved for the end of the show. And we're going to tackle reviews now. And the first issue that we're going to tackle today is Superior Spider-Man #30. Once again, not giving synopses because I suck at those. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to go around for grades on this issue, then we'll break the issue down. So, Thomas, what's your grade on Superior 30?
A. Solid A from me.
All right, James?
A.
All right, and I'll give it an A minus, which is surprising because I didn't expect to have the lowest grade of the bunch, but I'll give it an A minus. There was one big thing that we should talk about that did bring the issue down from a solid A for me. Actually, I would have given it an A plus if this one little thing didn't happen here, but whatever. We'll talk about that later. Basic breaking the issue down. We get the opening fight scene between Spock, Spider-Man 2099, and the Goblin Slayers / Spider Slayers, whatever you want to call them. And Spock basically leaves Miguel behind to die by himself, but we all know that Miguel is not dead, but I'm going to ask that question anyway because I feel like it. Do we feel like Miguel O'Hara is going to die and then be miraculously resurrected for his ongoing series that comes out in July of 2014?
No.
Even before the announcement, or at least when I heard about it, I did not think he was dead in this scene. Because there's no way you're going to have Spider-Man 2099 die just by a shot of him being buried in Spider Slayers. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I didn't believe that this guy was dead at all, but I just wanted to throw that question
I liked how
out.
we called him a poser.
Actually, yeah, you bithead. I knew you were a poser. The real Spider-Man would never... ... And then he gets... And then...
That sounds like more of a thing that he just figured it out now, but he's trying to sound smart, so he's saying, I always knew all along, even though it's kind of clear he didn't.
Yeah, but you know what? Well, he did investigate him in the last issue, so he knew that something was up. But of course, Thomas didn't read the last issue, so Thomas is a poser.
Hey. Hey.
But it reads off as, okay, I'm going to go save my girlfriend. You can die here. He goes, I knew you were a poser. The real Spider-Man would never.
Oh, Mommy!
They're so wet himself while they all just gang up on him.
All right.
It's like, Spider-Man, come back here to help me. Leave your girlfriend to die.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like a lose-lose situation because I don't even know if Peter Parker would have done the same thing.
I think Peter Parker probably would have just given him more notice. I gotta go save her, and then he would have been like, "Wait, where are you going? I gotta go save my girlfriend."
Yeah, and then you know what Miguel O'Hara's gonna say? He's gonna go, "I knew you were a poser. You're not the real Spider-Man. I'm the real Spider-Man."
I'm the superior Spider-Man.
Oh,
How
gosh. Flashbacks to 2012 when people thought Miguel O'Hara was going to be the superior Spider-Man.
Well, Dan Slott kind of did that when he was tweeting out to people, like, from Marvel, like, get ready for this Miguel scene, or, oh, how excited are you for this artwork that just came into Miguel? I mean, come on. You can't really blame people for jumping to that conclusion when...
Oh, but he was totally doing it as a red herring. He was just totally, like, trolling the fan base. Kind
of like he's been doing with the Norman Osborn references throughout this entire series.
Oh, yeah. We're going to find out who it really is next issue, right?
Yeah, next issue, according to solicitations, we're going to find out who the Goblin King is. But as we move through the issue here, we get more of Peter Parker in the Mindscape. Nothing really big happens there. But then we get a very nice scene, which I'm glad they did, which addressed where the heck the Avengers have been throughout this whole thing, and they've been helping innocents, trying to help the injured. But the one thing that got me was Iron Man is worried about about an illegal medical facility when they're in the middle of this Goblin siege. WTF?
Yeah. Well, I also like how the Avengers say that we're going to have to arrest Spider-Man, and now Peter's got his body back.
Oh, you know that's going to be just some BS storyline, but just like all the Avengers storylines have been in the past 2 years, but whatever.
I'm going to be really mad, though, once Peter's back in the body and acting normal. If they don't believe him and just arrest him for saying, oh, you won't trick us again, Spider-Man, even though he's acting completely normal, but every time Superior Spock said something, they believed it.
Yeah, I'm going to be a little bit upset about that, yeah.
Oh, you could totally expect that from Dan Slott, though.
I know, just to troll everybody.
I think they're going to because it's obvious. going status quo again. So they're going to obviously have him not getting along with the Avengers. This is like he can be swinging single again.
All right, but another thing I really liked about this scene here was that we finally get to see Spock admit that he's failed, and he's just going over everything he's lost in the past 3 issues, and it's a very nice scene because it does kind of set up what's going to happen later in the issue, and I don't know why I'm being ambiguous about these things because you've all read this issue, I'm assuming. So I'm just going to basically spoil it. It does set up him basically committing quote-unquote suicide to give Peter his body back, and I felt that this was a nice setup to that scene. It's like I didn't realize that was what it was setting what it was setting up when I first read it because I don't know about you guys, but I was one of the few people apparently who managed to avoid spoilers for this issue. So I had no idea Peter was coming back when I opened this book, but ultimately I felt that this was a good setup towards that little scene there, and there's not much else to talk about with that scene. But next we get the Mayor Jameson press conference about the out-of-control Goblin Slayers, and he's basically backed into a corner and saying, I did this for my own selfish reasons. I mean, he doesn't actually say that, but he's kind of forced to say that. So, ultimately, I did kind of like that scene. Everything's kind of backfiring in Jonah's face a bit. You know,
Watch him go back to being the publisher of the Daily Bugle, and then him, being mad at Spider-Man again. Boom.
Oh, because Slott, I mean, I'll be quite honest with you. Slott has kind of been setting up that he's trying to turn Jameson back into the very
classic
quote-unquote villain that he was in the Ditko issues. So, I definitely could see Slott doing that. Yeah, it's just, there's no way Slott's not headed in that direction, but you know what? I mean, do we think that Jameson's going to be kicked out of office, or do we think he's going to resign from office?
I think he'll pull a Nixon and resign from office to avoid being kicked out of office.
Yeah, it's pretty much this whole issue when you see all the stuff going on. It's getting everything back into being the status quo. Spider-Man, superhero, Peter Parker, Jonah, the Beagle hating him. That's all. His company's probably going to go belly up in the next issue or two, and then, boom, he's going to be back taking photos for the Bugle and all that stuff.
So it's going to be Brand New Day all over again.
Basically.
Yeah. And I would not be surprised if probably by issue 2 of Amazing Spider-Man, if Parker Industries has completely lost everything, because I'll be quite honest with you, I don't think Peter Parker knows how to run a business. I highly doubt it.
That, but I got a feeling that the Goblin's going to do something in issue 31 that's going to blow up the building or something, and Peter lost all that money.
Well, they already blew up half of it, didn't they?
Yeah, but I mean,
Peter does it.
He's going to level the whole thing, maybe kill off the supporting cast that stayed there from his days at whatever the hell that business was called in
Horizon Labs.
And then he's going to be back living with Aunt May.
Oh gosh. Yeah, the Aunt May who is now scared of Spider-Man because of the events of Superior Annual number 1.
Yes, exactly.
Everything's status quo. And you watch, if something happens to Carly and or Anna Maria, he's going to be back with Mary Jane.
Oh, you know Anna Maria's not sticking around. You know she's not sticking around.
One way or another, man.
One way.
She's either going to die and Otto's going to come back and be like, why didn't you save her?
I think it is. That's going to set up Otto as the villain. It's going to be something going to happen to Anna Maria either this issue or she's going to do something to herself because she can't live without Otto or something stupid like that.
Okay, I'd rather we not implicate that Anna Maria is going to commit suicide.
I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think it'd be really funny, though, if something did happen to Anna Maria, and then Otto's like, why didn't you save her? And so he gets his own body back from the missing body that still hasn't been resolved.
What are you, a masochist? You just said you'd find it funny if Anna Maria died.
Can we get off this subject? Because we know what some people online are going to be saying about him, saying he wishes that she dies or finds it funny. So can we just move?
No. I would say I would find it funny if Otto immediately goes back to being the villain, kind of like in the same vein as Venom.
He's always going to be a villain.
Yeah, I mean, how many people think that Doc Ock in 10 years is probably going to be going back to the whole thing of, oh, I'm going to take control of this nuclear power plant?
Nah, I think anyone who doesn't think it's going to go back to status quo is fooling themselves. Everything about this has been going back to status quo. Everything about this storyline that Dan Slott built up for Peter's life, which I do appreciate that he tried to make him go further, but I think this whole storyline's basically been trying to get Peter back to the status quo.
All
No
right.
matter what it says.
The way I took it is Slott's probably only going to have another year or so on the book, and he did not want what happened to GMS to happen to him. How the editorial mandate ruined his last 2 to 3 years on the book. He's probably thinking, well, you know what? Just like GMS built up all this stuff, and he had to take it all away with Civil War, Back in Black, and then One More Day. I don't want that to happen to me. So before Marvel can do that to me and retcon on my stuff, I'm gonna level it and bring it back.
Yeah. Do it on his own terms. It's a pretty good idea.
All right, but as we move through this scene here, we get Liz basically saying, Jameson's full of crap, and we warned him about the Goblin Slayers. And then we see her saying, one crisis averted now. Oh, no, can't leave that lying around. Normie comes in saying he thinks he misplaced something. Liz walks out of the room, one hand behind her back, saying, not now, dear. Mommy's busy. She has a company to run. But always remember, Normie, I'm doing this for you. Next panel, this is all for you. And you see her holding a goblin mask. I'll just ask the question right now. Does anyone here think that Liz is actually the main Green Goblin?
No. But how he said that he misplaced something, I think Liz Allen knows that Normie's the Goblin King.
See, here's a little behind the scenes thing. James and I were talking while we were waiting for Thomas's late ass.
Ouch.
Yeah, James and I were talking while we were waiting for Thomas, who showed up a half an hour late. And basically we were talking about who our theories, who we think is the Goblin King. Here's my theory, and I said this in my review. I think Liz is actually working or in cahoots or whatever with the Goblin King, who is actually Harry. Now there are reasons why I think this. One, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is coming out, which has Harry as the Goblin. What better way to tie the book into the movie? Two, it is the most logical reason to have Liz tied up in the Goblin plot. Because here's what I'm thinking. Harry is blackmailing her with the death of Normie. If Liz doesn't do what she said, or if Liz doesn't do what he says, Normie's dead. And here's why I think that. Harry does not have custody of Normie. He has Stanley, not Normie. Liz has Normie. This is why I think this. Harry is insane enough. There's part of Harry that is crazy enough to think, oh, well, I don't have that child under my custody, so I'll just kill him right on the spot. I don't know if I'm making any sense right now, but that is my theory.
Yeah, because that's the way I can see it. Like, people are pointing to the Normie thing, but he is a little bit too small, I think, unless he magically grows big to be the Goblin King, it seems. But I think he might just be, what he wanted to say was, I misplaced my Game Boy. I think it's just a red herring.
Yeah, I would agree that Harry being the Goblin would be a perfect setup for the movie as well, and especially if, let's say the Goblin manages to get away, then you can bring that up as like in The Amazing Spider-Man number 3 when we all think it's going to be the Black Cat. No, it actually ends up being Green Goblin as well.
Yeah, whatever.
Like what happened with the last Black Cat issue?
Well,
she was shortchanged for the other stories. For
the Peter Parker doctorate plot, but whatever.
Exactly.
Whatever. So none of us think that Liz is the Goblin King, or if she was the Goblin Queen. But none of us think that, and I'd say that's fair enough to say. Liz is not the Goblin. This is a red herring. And I saw some people online actually saying, oh my gosh, I called Liz being the Goblin from issue 17. Oh my gosh, I was right. Yeah, we'll see about that.
It's in the solicits for next issue. All the rest of this stuff, all this Norman stuff, everything is just a red herring, and then it's going to be someone that Dan Slott says, no one ever saw this one coming, and it's going to be like someone like random.
It's going to be Bart Hamilton.
It's going to be Peter Parker.
I think it's going to be Harry. I just think it's got to be Harry.
Yeah, it's Harry. I'm saying it's Harry.
I wouldn't put any money on it, but I'm gonna go with you guys. I think it's Harry too.
I'm not putting any money on it. I'm free to be proven wrong, but my theory is Harry is the Goblin King, and he's blackmailing Liz with Normie's life. That's my theory, but...
Wow, blackmailing Liz with Normie's life. That would be, whew. But yeah, that would be interesting.
That's what I think. That's what I think this Goblin King is up to. But as we move along here, we get Peter Parker in the Mindscape again. Basically going through what happened at the end of Amazing Spider-Man number 700 with Peter and Otto's body giving the memories, flooding Otto with the memories. Except this Peter Parker is also getting the memories, and he gets all of his memories back, and he says, every triumph, every tragedy, the heartache and the joy, family, friends, the adventure of it all, and the fun. My God, there was so much fun. And it's mine, the good and the bad. I built that, and I'm not surrendering 1 second of it. I'm taking it back, all of it. This is where there's an error here. And this is actually a continuity error, and this is the reason why this issue was not an A+ for me. How is this possible? Doc Ock destroyed all of those memories back in issue number 9.
Yes, but Doc Ock had these memories, right? And what we were seeing was Peter going through all these memories. So it's basically Peter going to Otto's memory where he looked into all of Peter's memories. So he knows that the memories that Otto was looking at were in fact his. And so now he has the memories as he was looking at it through Otto's eyes as to what the memories through. Because remember in issue number 700, Otto went through all of Peter's memories as himself, and then Peter went through that same process.
But theoretically, if Otto destroyed those memories, he wouldn't be able to access the memories that Peter was flooding him with in 700. So, oh my gosh, my freaking head hurts.
Well, Peter came back, and those were the very memories that he was deleted. He said it was basically Peter was an anemone of just made up of a whole bunch of memories. And so with him coming back, he has eventually, gained all the power back through his memories.
All right, James, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, I don't see it as a problem. I see it like pretty much what he said. Doc Ock did see all these memories. Otto just either doesn't remember that, or he just didn't think that they were in there. But the memories were still there because he accessed all of them in 700. So Peter, while he's going through all Otto's memories, he gets to the events of 700. When Otto got flooded with all the memories, and now boom, Peter's flooded once again with all his memories, because the memories of having those memories somehow gave him the memories back.
Oh my gosh, you just used the word memories about 3 times in that sentence, and that just made my head hurt.
Memory inception, just accept it.
Yeah, you're overthinking this, bro, and we have to overthink it to explain it to you, so just accept the fact that we're right and you're wrong.
All right, all right.
Anyway, guys, can I just say, as somebody who loves Spider-Man's history and all these back issues and stuff like that, I love the splash page with all the panels.
Cam and Coley, can we just take a minute to say, Cam and Coley, I love you, Cam and Coley. This was an amazing splash page.
Well, I don't think it was, entirely his, but it was great. I really did like the idea behind this, is that you have Peter, who I think fits in very well with this, and then you have all the splash page of just all these memories, and you can look back at these and you can be like, oh, that's his first meeting of Mary Jane. Oh, you can, and it's incredible, and it brought a tear to my eye.
I mean, you got the Clone Saga. You got stuff when he's married. Well, he's not married, obviously. These are him being single, but they're panels from, like, McFarlane. You got his team with Miles Morales. You got the first time he fought Moreland. You got the wedding for 600, the first time he met Black Cat. Issue 50 with him throwing the Spider-Man suit in the trash can. His first kiss with Gwen. I can go on and on with all these that you're seeing.
Dude, this was probably the best 2-page spread I've seen throughout this entire series.
Oh, absolutely.
This was incredible. This was.
Yes.
I mean, I absolutely loved it.
Oh, and I just noticed another one, just re-looking at the panel. It's kind of fading away, but you got when he joined the Avengers, in the new Avengers first hour. You got that in there, too. I mean, they put everything in here, pretty much.
Yeah, all the significant events, yes.
I love it. It's absolutely
Who wants
fantastic.
to count up all these memories and see if it adds to 31?
Yeah, not me. All right. But so I guess we could say I was wrong on this part, and there is no problem with this scene.
Yeah, I would say so.
And think about it, Jonathan. Some people out there think that me and Thomas just go along with whatever you say. I think we got some character development here with us.
Yeah.
Bring
it. But yeah, I think that's. I still don't understand it, but I'm gonna have to read the issue for like the 700th time.
I just agree with Thomas. That's the thing I got. It's 700 when Otto got flooded with the memories. That's the exact moment that Peter has seen the memories. Yeah, he's remembering that Otto remembered the memories.
All right. I'm not going to argue because I have a headache now. I'm not even kidding. So
well, they had to do this. He had to get all his memories back because you're not going to have him not remember Flash Thompson. You're not going to have him not remember this, not remember that. You're not going to have history of this character being thrown away just because he can't remember it. Because that already kind of happened with One More Day, and I don't think any fans would have wanted with issue 1 him to just remember, oh, I got bit by the radioactive spider and Uncle Ben died, Gwen died, Norman's the Goblin, and Kraven's Last Hunt, and Otto was in my mind. That's it. I don't think anybody wants everything else to not be remembered.
Yeah, I think that too. But I also think that like there was that series that's going to be Amnesiac Peter Parker, so I'm thinking that there might be a few memories that he's still missing. I think the only memories that he really, really remembers are the pivotal moments in his life that Doc Ock got sent through in issue number 700. Not the whole thing, but like just like pivotal moments, and then Otto could recall any little detail that he wanted to know. Remember that? It was like he got the pivotal moments, and then every other time he needed like small little details, he would be able to recall those. So,
all right, final thoughts on this Peter Parker getting his memories back?
Booyah! Spider-Man's coming back.
All right.
I loved it. Just looking at the splash page.
Yep.
Yeah, splash page. I can't talk today. I'm just real tired, sir, guys.
It's all right.
This one is the one for like wallpapers. This is the one that posters are made out of that you hang in your bedroom.
Oh yeah, like I'm printing this out from a picture on because I put an image of this in my review. I'm printing that picture out and putting it on my wall.
It is gorgeous. I have to admit.
If I go in FIE or some store here and I see this hanging somewhere, I am gonna buy it. I don't care how much it is. I'm buying it
because this 2-page spread is incredible. It's absolutely fantastic.
Hey, James, it's $350.
Screw you.
All right. Moving on here, we get Spock following Menace into the underground sewer, or the underground subway, I should say, and he sees what he thinks, or who he thinks is Anna Maria, and we got a good line from the Goblin here. I've done bridges. This time I thought I'd go with tunnels. I don't know why, I just thought that was badass. But, as we move along, we see it's not actually Anna Maria, but it's Amy Chen. We all remember her. The girl that Spock saved back in issue number 8 of Superior Spider-Man. And so, basically what happens here, Otto contemplates, if I miss, if I'm hit, there will be no one to save Anna Maria. What should I... And then Peter Parker comes... Or Ghost Peter, I should say, comes in and just yells, jump, and Otto jumps and saves Amy Chen. What do we think of this scene here?
I think this is perfect redemption because if you remember, Otto made fun of him in Superior Spider-Man number 9 that he didn't save this, that he was like contemplating not to save this girl because then he would because it would give him away. But in this, it's basically a redemption that you need to save this person, and it's proving that Otto had that very same kind of, self-doubt, whether or not he should do it, just like Peter did. So it proves that he's actually inferior to Peter because of all the horrible things that have happened, and then on top of that, he does the exact same thing he did. So I think this is a perfect, redemption page for Peter.
And plus, it's the same girl.
Yep. Yeah, that's what I was saying, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a nice little tidbit.
Like, there's been people who say that, well, this is why Otto was so much better, because Peter is a hypocrite because he complains at Otto because Otto did the exact same thing he did, and that's what makes Peter a hypocrite. That's why they should have kept Otto for a few more years and get rid of Peter. I'm like, no, this panel, like Thomas said, explains exactly. I mean, not this panel, but these panels explain exactly why he needed to return. Because he is superior Spider-Man, because he learns from his mistakes. Otto doesn't. Otto thinks that what he does is right and moving on. Peter knew, okay, I fucked up there in issue 9. Excuse my language to the kids that are watching this, but I screwed up in issue 9. And this is him saying, I learned from my mistake, and now you cannot do this. You just jump in and save them. Don't care if you lose the advantage. You got to do the right thing, because there's always a way you can come back. I'm living proof of that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but then we get a nice little bit of dialogue from Ghost Peter. He says, basically, you screwed up, Otto. When there's time, you weigh options. When there's not, you act. I really love that, and I gotta say, Christos Gage really nailed the Peter Parker dialogue in this issue. It was absolutely fantastic, and once again, the signal for me that he nailed that was that I could hear the classic voice that I always hear for Spider-Man in the comics. So, Christos Gage, props to you. You've been absolutely killing it on these past 2 issues. And I gotta say, I'm really impressed with Gage's work lately. But as we move along, we see Spock and Peter swing through the city. Not much to talk about there, except that Ock basically finally admits that Peter is the superior Spider-Man. That was nice to see. It shows that he finally has learned from his mistakes. Or not really learned from his mistakes, but realized that he screwed up, just like James said. They arrive at Parker Industries, and Otto enters the Mindscape and basically wipes himself out. So I guess we'll just get our thoughts on this whole quote-unquote suicide scene here. Thoughts on Otto wiping himself out?
Is this just kind of like how Otto wiped Peter out, and then Otto's going to come back in issue number 1 and be like, sitting there like, I'm still alive.
I'm still alive. I'm here.
Exactly, but
that was a terrible German accent. I apologize.
It's fine, but I do like this splash page, and I think that this really is also kind of a redemption for Otto. I think a lot of people really didn't like him a lot. I was one of the people that really didn't like him, and to see him selflessly give up his life as Spider-Man and to give up his entire life, everything that he's lived for, just wiped out. I think this is beautiful to have that happen.
All right, James, thoughts?
Yeah, I like it. Like, I know this is probably becoming like a little like running joke with me saying it, but it's actually pretty good. He admits that he's superior. Peter's walking. I love it when Peter's going around Parker Industries and he's like, "What? I have my own lab. I have my own building. I have my own employees." Like, that's kind of setting up, like you said, he can't run this company. And I love it how Otto just gives that talk. He goes, "Yeah, I'm arrogant. I screw up. I can't do stuff right. I let things get bad. I got a too big of an ego." You kind of do that too, Parker, but you hide it. You sabotage yourself. But today you can't do that no more. You're the superior Spider-Man, and you got to fix this problem. You're the only one that can do it. And then you got the erasing of the memories, which I saw. A lot of people go, "Well, that's completely either out of character, or they should have kept Otto in 31 doing it after fighting Norman, or he should have gave up. He should have had more of a fight over it." But I saw it as with that scene with that little girl. It snapped in his head. If I couldn't come up with the right decision to save this little girl, how was I going to save Anna Maria? Parker knows that is the only one who can do it, so I have to do this to save her.
And I think it's also kind of nice because he's consistent. Is that he said that Parker was inferior because that he was thinking about letting this girl die. And then you have Otto who's sitting there, he's like, I'm thinking about letting this girl die. I am no better than Parker. In fact, Parker's even better than me. He wouldn't have let this happen. He wasn't arrogant. He wasn't this, that, and the other thing. He wouldn't have ever let it get this bad. And so he really is true. And this isn't out of character for me. I think it was always Otto trying to be better, and he realizes today that he wasn't.
All right, so we basically get Otto wiping himself out. A cool page with no dialogue of Peter basically taking off the superior Spider-Man suit and suiting back up in his classic Spider-Man suit. And the final page is a splash page of the classic Spider-Man saying, "My turn," to be concluded. So, I guess we'll get our final thoughts on this issue. Thomas, go ahead.
Oh my gosh. It was I had my concerns when Slott basically wrote Peter into becoming Dr. Octopus, or thinking he was Dr. Octopus. But when they showed that entire ride, and then Peter remembering that he is Peter Parker, and then him becoming Spider-Man again, and Otto's redemption, everything in this issue is exactly what I really wanted it to be. The final issue of Otto Octavius' tenure as Superior Spider-Man. And now I think if anyone who was really a critic of the entire series can look back now and kind of reread those issues and be like, it's not that bad. Honestly, I think a lot of people had kind of this bitter emotion that it wasn't Peter, but I think that if you reread it at this point, that it becomes one of the better storylines of Peter of the past couple of years, when Spider-Man stories haven't been really that good. Admittedly, there are plot holes and stuff, but it's still, this issue really got back to the heart of who Spider-Man is, and so I really enjoyed it. I thought it couldn't have been really much better. So, all
right, final grade, Thomas.
I'm gonna stick with my A. There was the one issue with the Avengers that kind of ticked me off. That it's probably going to be Peter taking the downfall for Otto again with that, and so that kind of ticked me off. But other than that, it was a really good issue. So I'll stick with my A.
All right, James. Final thoughts and grade.
My final thought is about this final panel. Our group of panels is this was the moment where he became Peter Parker again. It wasn't whining ghost Peter no more. This is the real guy. And almost kind of like you said about you hearing the voice you heard. Well, I heard that too. But also, it was like when I was reading this panel, the ending of the Raimi trilogy, there's that little piece of music where he goes like, "This is my curse. Who am I? I'm Spider-Man." That music, I heard that, and for me, that just made it feel more epic. And I'm not gonna lie, I actually had a tear come down my eye, just like Peter did in that panel, because it did feel like, because I did miss Peter, and I've been a Spider-Man fan since I was 4 years old with the Fox cartoon. And so it was kind of like one of my friends came back. So I did have kind of a tear, and I'm not afraid to admit it. If anyone's giving me hell for this, screw you. I don't care. But yeah, but this was a really great panel, and it really got me excited for 31, and I enjoyed this issue. I do kind of like it, that little twinkle in the tear, almost like that's all that remains of Dr. Octopus, is that tear that he had when he was going to miss Anna Maria. That's all that remains left of Otto Octavius, is that little twinkle in that tear for her. Kind of, I got the feeling of. It was symbolic almost.
All right,
and
so
my final grade?
Yep.
I'm going to switch my final grade. I said A, but now I'm going to give it an A+, because literally all of the little things I did kind of not like about it, just kind of with everything I did like, kind of outweighed it.
All right, since I was proven wrong about the whole thing of Peter's memories being screwed up, I'm gonna switch my grade from an A- to an A+. So, which is what I wanted to give it initially. And I'm gonna admit, when I saw this final page of Spider-Man saying "my turn," I had this dopey, goofy-ass grin on my face when I saw Spider-Man again. I was just like, yes. But, final grade for me, A+. This was a fantastic issue, probably easily the best issue of Superior yet. And let's see if 31 can top it. I highly doubt it, but we'll see if 31 can top it. All right, so moving on to our other current review of the week, we have Superior Team Up number 11, which only James and I read, I'm pretty sure. Thomas, did you read it?
No.
Yeah, I figured he didn't. So while I pull the issue up on my iPad, James, why don't you give us your initial thoughts on Superior Team Up number 11?
Norman is fucked up. I can't. That's the nicest way you can say it. Literally, for people who haven't read this issue, when we tell you these things, we're not making any of this up. He literally did the stuff he did here. It is just proof why Norman Osborn is the most screwed up, twisted supervillain. Well, maybe the Joker in DC is a little bit more than him, but in the Marvel world, nothing can top him. What he does in this issue is more unforgivable than the Clone Saga and killing Gwen. Trust me, it is that bad.
Oh gosh. Yeah, my initial thoughts on this issue. It was a good issue. I did like it. Yeah, Norman is screwed up really bad. Not like screwed up from a writing perspective. Screwed up in the head, we mean. Like, he is messed up, yo. But, Yeah, it was a good issue. I did enjoy it. For anyone who's looking for a written review of it, Jacob did a written review of it on the front page, so go and check that out. I highly suggest it. It's a good review. But basically, we'll just list what we liked and didn't like about this issue because we got this review section's going a bit longer than I thought because Superior Authority went a bit longer than I wanted it to. But what I liked in this issue, I liked the art. This was Ron Friends, inked by Sabi Sima, and I gotta say, that was absolutely fantastic. The art in this issue was absolutely gorgeous. I loved every single panel, every single page of it. This looked like a classic Spider-Man book, and I really, really enjoyed it. I felt probably this was probably the best art we've seen on Superior Team up to date. Chichetto, or however you pronounce it, does a fairly good job. He's a fairly competent artist on the previous issues, but it's great to see Ron Friends and Sabi Sima back for this issue. So, James, thoughts on the art in this issue?
I loved it. Like, the one page of the different art, you know, it's really beautiful, and I like that guy's art when he did a few issues of the Brand New Day, and so I kind of like that first page, but it has to go to Ron Friends and Sabi Sima. This is just classic 80s, 90s Spider-Man art, which fits the story perfectly, and it's like a callback to a simpler time with comic books, just the way the villains even look. It's classic Norman and classic Otto Octavius look.
All right, and to speed this up a little bit, we're just gonna go through it individually. So, James, I'm getting feedback from someone, not anymore. But James, what are your thoughts on the overall issue? What'd you like? What you didn't like?
I liked it. There's not much that I didn't like. The art's beautiful, like we already said. It's a very good way of seeing inside the head of both Norman and Octavius. And in a lot of ways, Otto's going over how insane Norman is, but it's the pot calling the kettle black. Like, he doesn't realize how hypocritical he is on Norman. He thinks, well, I'm just a man of science who, if I have to deal with Spider-Man, I'll kill him. You know, no problems asked. It's just he's getting in the way of my plans, which is to become the greatest scientist of all time. And Norman's is a complete opposite. Norman is, like you said, screwed up, and he says, no, I don't want to just kill Spider-Man if he gets in my way. I want to kill his family. I want to kill his friends. I already killed his girlfriend. I'm going to make his life a living hell, and then I'm going to grant his wish when he wants to be dead. And it's just, they're both his greatest villains, but they have different ways of going at it. And in a lot of ways, Norman sees Octavius as a legit friend because they're Spider-Man's greatest foes, but at the same time, he's almost jealous that Otto does have a backup plan of falling in love with his long-lost love, and he's kind of just screwed up where he goes, well, he's right, you know, he's evil, and he's just as bad as I am, but he just needs that little extra kick and push, and this is where I get to the messed up part. Octavius tells the story about his long-lost love and how he couldn't get married to her because of his mom, and that's one of the things that led him to become Dr. Octopus, but if he can ever get her back, he might change. Well, Norman saw that as a failure, and this whole issue, Octavius thinks Norman's going to his side and going to agree with him, and then he finds out Norman didn't change his mind at all. Norman still got his way he wants to do it because he's so screwed up, but his way of thinking is, the only way Octavius will join me is if he loses his wife just like I lost mine, and so he pretty much calls up Octavius to a hospital. Octavius shows up thinking that Norman's hurt, but Norman's not. He explains everything's okay, and he goes, I'm not going to listen to your plan that we had, which was for an Octavius Green Goblin hybrid suit. We're not going to go with that. And he goes, why not? Why not? Because I realize why you don't agree with me. It's because you didn't experience the same loss the way I did. So I had your girlfriend's car rigged, and she ran off a cliff. Octavius freaks out. What did you do, Norman? Don't relax. She's expecting to make a full recovery thanks to a blood transfusion. And then right when Otto's about to sigh of relief, he goes, so that's why I gave her a deadly virus. Probably AIDS, and she's going to die.
Yeah, Norman is screwed up.
What makes him so twisted, if you look at his smile, it's crazy, but he's doing it thinking he's doing his friend a favor. He gave his girlfriend AIDS, and he thinks that's a favor to the guy.
Yeah, that's pretty messed up. So, James, what is your grade on this issue?
A-.
All right, that actually works well because I'm going to give this issue an A- as well. Like I said, I really like the art. The art was absolutely fantastic. I love the banter between Otto and Norman. I felt that was very good. It was good to see them interact because we haven't really seen much of Otto and Norman interaction throughout Spider history. So I did actually kind of like this issue in terms of that. The dialogue felt genuine. I could hear the basic voices that I normally hear for these two characters. So that was good. I loved Otto's line of crazy appears just as quickly as it disappears, or whatever it was. I'm paraphrasing that, but it was something along those lines. I absolutely adored that line. I felt that was a good description of Norman and how he thinks. I felt that was a very good description of Norman's psyche, and ultimately it just really worked out well. And of course, the ending was screwed up beyond all reasonable proportion, but it was awesome. Like, I'm not saying it was good that she got a deadly virus, but it was like, holy hell, that's an ending. That was a screwed up ending. I honestly hope no one ever has to go through something like that. But that is screwed up, bro.
What makes it more twisted to me than what he did to Gwen is what he did to Gwen, basically, unless you read Since Past, which they go on more with the Stacy twins. Pretty much, if you go to the original story, he killed Spider-Man girlfriend because he did the stick of what every supervillain at the time. You kidnap the girlfriend, the hero comes in to save her. Only in this case, he did it. So that's not really twisted. He was just trying to get the Spider-Man by killing his girlfriend. That is bad, but this was him literally think he was doing a friend a favor by giving her AIDS and putting her in a car wreck.
That is messed up. I'm not kidding. That is seriously messed up. But overall, I give the issue an A-. I liked it quite a bit. It's probably one of the strongest issues I've read from Superior Team Up. Superior Team Up for me has been kind of a forgettable series. Not necessarily like it's horrible, but it just hasn't really delivered those classic stories that you really like. This issue, to me, is probably the best issue of Superior Team Up I've read yet. So I really, really enjoyed it. I give it an A-, and yeah. So, James, any other final thoughts on Superior Team Up number 11?
Just don't go if you're ever in the Marvel Universe, don't go anywhere near Norman Osborn. I mean, what else can I say?
Yeah, that guy is... little kids listening to the podcast, skip 5 seconds ahead. That guy is fucked up. That guy's messed up. But
it's the guy who was the mastermind of the Clone Saga. He kidnapped Aunt May. I mean, Peter thinks she was dead for years. He killed Gwen Stacy, and this is the thing that makes me scared to death of the guy.
Yeah, this is messed up. All right. But moving off of current issue reviews and onto classic issue reviews, we got Amazing Spider-Man number 16 here that we're going to review today. Amazing Spider-Man number 16. Basically, this is the first team up with Daredevil in a Spider-Man comic book. And basically, what are my thoughts on this issue? I'll start with my grade. I gave it a B-. It's not the best issue I've ever read from the Lee Ditko era, but it's a decent issue. My one con for this issue was that Betty did return to being annoying as ever. She cries because Peter doesn't take her to the circus. It's like, oh, you're obviously going with some other girl. No, bitch, maybe I just want some time away from you and your incessant annoying personality. Maybe that's all I want. To put it in the most forward way I possibly can. I'm hearing feedback again. Oh my gosh. It'll go away. But as we move along here,
Radios has that too.
What?
I know how you feel. Some of the early Angel Girl radios has that problem too.
Yeah, see, who has speakers on? I'm hearing it from somewhere.
I'm wearing a mic.
Yeah, my thing's all the way down to my thing, so it shouldn't be my speaker giving feedback because my volume's all the way down to 50.
Huh. Oh, now I'm not hearing it anymore. All right, whatever. Now I'm not. Now it's gone, so it's a moot point. Edit that out. No way. As we move, my pros for this issue. I felt that this was a solid Daredevil crossover. I didn't hate the inclusion of Daredevil. I felt he was well integrated into the issue. He didn't play as big of a role as normal crossovers do. He helped Spider-Man get started in defeating the villain, but ultimately it was Spider-Man's victory in the end, and I liked that. I always feel that when people cross over in Spider-Man, they should be there, they shouldn't dominate the story, and that's exactly what Daredevil was here. He was there, he didn't dominate the story, and overall, it was a good story. So, overall, I didn't mind the Daredevil crossover. The action sequences in this issue, which is mostly what the issue was made up of, I felt those were fairly solid, and I overall felt the art was very good, as usual. So, B- out of me. There's not too much to say about this issue. It's just a basic team-up issue between with Spider-Man and Daredevil. It features the Ringmaster as the villain. He's kind of a lame villain, but you know what? This is the 60s. I kind of am willing to let that go. So it's not a big problem for me. So a B- out of me. So either of you two have any thoughts on Amazing Spider-Man number 16?
I'm alright with team-up issues and stuff. I'm just not the biggest fan of this one in particular. I thought it was alright. I'm not really a huge fan of the villain in it, and it refers to the classic kind of idea of hypnotism, which is wrong because you can only be hypnotized if you actually want to. A lot of people don't know that, but the urban myth that you just swirl things inside to people that it would hypnotize them, that's not really true, but whatever. I guess you can let it slide in a comic book. But it was an alright issue. It's probably one of the weakest for me in the first 20 or so issues. I don't really like it that much, so it's probably more like a C+ for me.
Alright, James?
Yeah, pretty much what he said. It's a good issue. It's a team up, and Daredevil's not really, well established. I think he was only like 3 months into his comic book series when this team up happened. It was pretty much just a promotion by Daredevil, by Marvel. But I did kind of like that it planted the seeds of Peter's and Daredevil's relationship, which in the comics is pretty much, besides for him and Human Torch, probably his second biggest best friend in the hero community because they're both the street level guys.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah.
And bring up the hypnotism part. Yeah, I agree with him that science now tells us that if you hypnotize somebody, it doesn't make them do anything they don't want to do. Like I can't hypnotize John and make him go kill somebody. That's impossible.
Well, you can't even be hypnotized without wanting to be hypnotized.
And because there's a story about that where my psychology teacher, when we were learning about hypnotism in class, he told a story about how he went to go see a hypnotist, and this one guy went up on the stage. He had him quack like a duck, him do all these crazy things, dance, whatever. And then the second he said, okay, I got a pair of female underwear. I want you to put them on over your clothes. And they're pretty big and fat pairs or whatever. The guy just unhypnotized himself and walked off the stage because that's something he did not want to do.
All right, but what's your grade on this issue, James?
B-.
All right, so same as me. But as we move along here, excuse me, our final classic review of the day is Amazing Spider-Man number 17. This issue is the second appearance of the Green Goblin, and I gotta say that this issue overall is much stronger than the Green Goblin's first appearance. As a little preview, I'm gonna give this issue an A-. I really, really did enjoy it. Pros. First of all, I love issues where Flash shows his fanboy nature for Spidey. If there's one thing that made Flash a redeemable character in my eyes, it was, there were plenty of things, but first and foremost, he's a fan of Spider-Man, and I absolutely love that, but I also love the irony that he loves Spider-Man, but at this point in his life, he hates Peter Parker. I always loved that irony, and that was something I felt was very, very strong. This issue was also a good way to showcase the Parker luck, not only with the scene of him supposedly stopping a crime only for it to turn out to be a movie scene, but also in the fact that his aunt has another heart attack at the end of the issue, plus his problems with Betty. This was a great way to showcase the Parker luck. Just pretty much every single aspect of Peter's life in this issue is screwed up in some form, and it's not, I wouldn't say it's all his fault, but it's just bad luck, and this is a good way to showcase the Parker luck in this issue. This issue also had a nice inclusion of the Human Torch, like Daredevil, he was there, he didn't dominate the story, and he actually worked well in terms of moving the story along. So I didn't mind the Human Torch in this issue. My one con of the issue would be Spider-Man overhears Liz saying, "Why isn't Peter Parker ever around when Spider-Man is?" Excuse me. So he changes back to Peter Parker, but wouldn't that leave the whole thing of, like, that wouldn't support his argument that he's not Spider-Man because Spider-Man happens to be disappearing at the same time that Peter Parker's reappearing? So that was just a con for me. I didn't like that. Little trivia points about the issue. There are a few continuity errors, like Flash calling Liz's dad Mr. Brandt. That's a continuity error that I noticed, and James pointed out some more, but I don't remember them. Solid action sequences between the Green Goblin and Spider-Man in this issue. Really enjoyed them. I felt that they were fairly engaging and also intriguing, which is exactly what action sequences should be. This shouldn't be too long, but they shouldn't be too short. They should be just enough. They should be just long enough to engage the reader and make them very interested in what's going on in the story. And also the art from Steve Ditko. Once again, the art from Steve Ditko is absolutely fantastic, and I absolutely loved it. So, A- out of me for this issue. I really, really enjoyed it. So, James, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts on Amazing Spider-Man number 17?
Me?
Yes, you.
Okay, you kind of cut off for a second because I didn't hear you.
Oh, sorry.
I liked this issue. It's a classic Green Goblin Spider-Man. The first appearance of the glider, because his other first appearance, he had a broom. And, yeah, the continuity errors, you got that, and then you got the whole 60s kind of comic book thing of, what's that? His aunt's sick. Peter Parker's? Heart attack? He's needed right now. It's like, what's the other end of that conversation where the guy's saying, why are you just repeating everything I said? Yeah. Well, can you hear me?
Yeah.
And to answer your question about the Liz Allen thing, it is known that at that time period that Steve Ditko would come up with plot ideas to Stan that he wouldn't know about, either because Ditko would change his mind for something or just didn't tell Stan, or they weren't talking to each other, or Stanley just forgot. And I think maybe what the Liz thing is, oh my God, where's Peter? I hope he's not hurt. And then Peter that's maybe what Steve Ditko was planning, was just she's worried about Peter. So Peter jumped down there and changed back to normal so that way she wouldn't worry about him. And Stan, just either forgetting or not told about it, just went, wait, why does he change after she talks to him? She's wondering why Peter and Spider-Man are not at the same place. Yeah, that makes the most sense. Okay, do that.
Yeah, that was my biggest con of the issue. It's just I didn't like that. That didn't make any sense to me. But you know what? It is kind of classic 60s writing, so we do kind of have to take that into account a little bit. But what's your grade, James?
C+. C+.
I was going to say C-. Wow, that's negative. But Thomas, what are your thoughts on Amazing Spider-Man number 17?
I think that it's quite a bit stronger than the first Green Goblin appearance. Obviously, you noted some continuity issues. The 60s cheesiness and the kind of fact that Peter wasn't there, that doesn't bother me that much, to be quite honest, so it doesn't really bring the issue down, mostly because I expect that kind of stuff from those issues. So I'm actually going to give it a B, a solid B from me.
All right, and I gave it an A-, so fairly positive marks from everyone. And I'll be quite honest, this was a fairly good week for Spider Books, both classic reviews and current reviews. I think we gave both current issues A's. And so, yeah, this was a fairly good week for Spider Books in terms of reviews. But any final thoughts on any of the books that we talked about today?
No.
I got one. It's to Thomas over here. You actually think this is a better plot than him doing a convoluted thing of flying the Enforcers and him and Spider-Man out to Hollywood to film a movie and getting a studio to give him a budget and everything just so he can kill Spider-Man?
Yes. Yes, I do.
No, I'm agreeing with you. I'm just explaining issue 14.
Yeah, I know.
Like, I'm going to fly everybody out to Hollywood. I'm going to get a film crew to back it, which kind of makes it weird that it's Norman Osborn. Why does he need a film crew to pay for everything? But I'm going to get everything to back it. I'm going to do all the stuff. Spider-Man's going to fly here. He's going to think that the actors are just really good at looking like the Enforcers. And then we're going to hit him over the head with a rock, and I'm going to blow him with a pumpkin bomb, and that's going to be all we do.
Why didn't he just kill him when he saw him there? Like, punch him off the broom or something. Try that.
It's 60s. I go watch Spider-Man Classic. They had a better that podcast. They had a really great way of explaining it. Is him giving the idea to the enforcers is pretty much, okay, here's my plan. We're gonna fly him out to Hollywood, trick him that we're gonna do a movie, and then we're gonna hit him over the head with a rock. Wait, that's all of it.
Really hard.
Don't you see sparks that come out of my fingers? I can't do it better like they did it, but it was hilarious, and that pretty much sums up how Norman's plan was. This is the man who became the guy who scared the shit out of me with Superior Team Up.
Well, to be fair, I don't even think Stan Lee knew who the Green Goblin was going to be.
Well, yeah, it's been said in multiple interviews that part of the reason Ditko left is because they couldn't agree on who the Green Goblin was.
Ditko, in a recent thing, like a few years back, said that they might have not known the name, but they knew who was going to be the Green Goblin. And if you notice, when they start to introduce Norman Osborn in the background of like Norman's J. Jonah Jameson's kind of rich guy country clubs, you notice that Norman's either in the background or he's talking to Jonah in issues that involve the Green Goblin.
Oh yeah, I know that. Yeah, I need to start reading more current interviews apparently.
Because there's especially one where if you see it, he's telling Jonah, hey, Jonah, I left something for you at your offices you should pick up. And that's just so convenient when the master planner notices, the crime master notices J. Jonah Jameson and thinks he's the Green Goblin. Why did Norman leave something in the office? Because it might have been something that would have planted a red herring that it's Jonah.
All right, but moving off of the reviews and tackling listener questions now. First off, thanks to everyone who actually gave us questions. I could not believe that we actually got questions within the first week of me announcing the questions thread. Because to be quite honest, I'm not that interesting of a person, so it's really kind of amazing to me that you guys want to ask me questions. These two, they're probably way more interesting than me, so I can kind of understand it, but whatever. All right,
selling yourself short there, bro. But
I'm not that interesting of a person. I'll be quite honest with you.
Oh, we know, man. We know.
All right, but our first question this week is from All Things Super. He says, "Hey guys, how would you rank your top 10 Spider-Man villains and why?" So I guess we will just go around the panel, give our list of our top 10 Spider-Man villains, and give a brief, maybe 1 or 2 sentence explanation as to each one. So who wants to go first? Not me.
Not me. Nose goes.
Fine. I knew this was going to happen. I knew I was going to end up going first. Number 10, he's on the list. He'd be number 1 if it was a different superhero villain list, but because he's just a guy who appears in Spider-Man books, occasionally in the Battle Spider-Man, he's number 10 on this list compared to the actual Spider-Man Rogue Gallery, and that is Doctor Doom. Because I actually enjoyed the Doctor Doom storylines, like Amazing number 5, and then there's one that he had where he thought Doctor Doom was involved with Mary Jane's death during the Howard Mackie era. It's really great to see Spider-Man when he fights Doctor Doom, because it's a different twist of he's fighting a classic Marvel villain, but it's just a different flavor thrown in there because it's him fighting Doctor Doom. It's not Doctor Doom versus the Fantastic Four or the Avengers. It's him versus Spider-Man, so the completely different ballroom of the fight changes, and I really enjoy that. Do you want me to keep on going on my list, or we're just going to...
Yeah, we'll just keep on going. Do your full list.
9 is Mysterio. Love the costume, and he's the most campiest, cheesiest villain, and the fact that he has made it this long to be a fan favorite to a lot of people is just says how great of a character that Stan Lee and Steve Ditko made of this guy. He is just the most campiest, silliest, fishbowl-wearing villain you would ever see, and I think we all love him for it. So Mysterio's number 9. Number 8 is Kraven, and I can sum that up in 3 words. Kraven's Last Hunt. That arc is pretty much what got him into this top 10. Number 7 is Hydro Man, mostly because of the Spider-Man animated series, not much because of the comic books. I kind of find him boring in the comic books, but if you go with the 90s cartoon, I find him pretty awesome, and the whole Mary Jane psychotic water clone thing is kind of weird, but it's a pretty interesting character, and it gives him a new reason to hate Spider-Man, because he stole his love. And I know that didn't really happen in the comic books, but still, whatever. Number 6 is Carnage. What can I say about Carnage that hasn't already been said? He's just pure evil. Not Norman Osborn pure evil, but this is a guy who doesn't care. You can just walk up to him and say, hey, how are you doing? And he will stab you. I mean, he is just pure evil. killing machine that will not stop at nothing until the whole world agrees with him that there are no rules, anarchy rules. Carnage is the only thing that matters to Carnage. Number 5 is Harry Green Goblin. It's just an interesting twist to the Goblin because instead of it being Spider-Man's best friend's father is the Goblin, it's Spider-Man's best friend is the Goblin. And those storylines, when you read like the first early appearances with Harry building up to the Green Goblin, he is insane. He's all like, you were never really my friend. He breaks up with Mary Jane. He becomes very antisocial. He finds out that Peter's Spider-Man, and then he tries to blow up, pretty much kill two birds with one stone with Mary Jane and Peter. Tries to blow him up on a date. He's completely pure evil. He's threatening to kill Aunt May. Peter's conflicted because this is my best friend. How do I take down my best friend, a guy who's like a brother to me? And then you go through the 80s where it's kind of like, yeah, he was kind of anti-hero Green Goblin for a while in the McFarlane run. And then you get to Spectacular Spider-Man 200 and around that time period, and Harry is just as bad as Norman is, maybe even worse at that time period. And then he redeems himself, and just that gets him into the top 5. I like Harry as the Green Goblin. Number 4 is the Superior Spider-Man, a.k.a. Dr. Octopus. Just classic villain, and there's not much to say about him. It's just the classic Ditko villain. Number 3, the Hobgoblin. Yeah, one of my favorite Spider-Man storylines. Roger Stern did it right until he left the book, and then other people literally did not know what to do with him. But if you go with those early issues, and even nowadays with him, now that we know what Roger Stern wanted, he is just, in my opinion, I said he's the smartest Goblin. He is the one who's even smarter than Norman at times. Because anytime you think you have all the answers to him, he changes the questions on you, and you get a plot twist that is just going to make you keep on rethink everything you know about this guy. And that, to me, is a great villain, because you don't know. Any second can change the game plan with him. Number 2 is Venom. I'm a 90s kid. That should sum it up right there. Venom was everywhere. He was literally invincible as Spider-Man. The spider sense doesn't work. He knows everything about him before Spider-Man does it. And he's not even that big of a villain. He's just like, kind of like Ari Rod said, he just wants to kill Peter Parker. If he kills Spider-Man, he'll literally leave. And that's what makes him so scary, is that he is not after the rule of the world. He just wants to kill this one guy. It's just revenge. It's bloody revenge, him bloody in a pool. I'm done. And number 1 is Norman. It's the Green Goblin, my favorite villain. The only person in this world I can love Norman more than I do is J.R. Fettinger. I mean, what else can I say about the Green Goblin that has not been said by anybody? When you think definitive Spider-Man bad guy, he pops in your head. I can go off all the things he has done that makes him deserve his list, but it would go on forever. Someone's going to stop here. It's Norman.
All right. Good list there, James. Solid list. I kind of disagree with it a bit, but you know what? It's your own personal list. So, Thomas, we'll have you go, and we'll save the best for last. So, Thomas, you go.
Oh, a little bit arrogant there. I see how we're going to be. All right. I'm going to actually probably try to make this a little briefer. I'll just go through my top 10 immediately and then try to explain some of my choices at the end. So 10, Hobgoblin for me. 9 is Mysterio. 8 is Venom. 7 is going to be Beetle. 6, Kraven. 5, Sandman. 4, Dr. Octopus. 3, Green Goblin, the hairy one. 2 is Carnage, and 1 is Green Goblin, the Norman one. And I know Carnage doesn't really make it into the top 5 for a lot of people. But I really like just how sadistic he is, and that's why all the top 2 villains on my list are the most sadistic ones that Spider-Man has. Because I like that equivalent for Spider-Man. Spider-Man's this light, happy-go-lucky superhero that, does these quips and makes fun of his villains. And then these guys are like the polar opposites. These guys are serious, and they want to kill everyone, not just Spider-Man. And then you have the classic, you feel sorry for the villains. Mysterio is just kind of like, I want to prove I'm better than Spider-Man, so he belongs definitely on this list. Hobgoblin, one of the smarter goblins that we've gotten over time, so Hobgoblin's definitely on the list. I really like Hobgoblin as well. And Green Goblin Harry, I feel there's a very personal connection there. Otherwise, he'd be way further down on the list, because I don't really think narratively he's a very good villain. It's basically like father and son kind of thing. But the fact that he has so much history with Peter makes him a better villain. So that's my top 10 list.
All right. My top 10. All right, my top 10 list. Basically, these first 5, which are 10 through 6, are in no particular order. They are just villains that I couldn't rank. I have a definitive top 5, but I couldn't rank these other 5. Because I just couldn't decide. Like, I sat there for probably about a good 5 minutes trying to decide. First villain, Mysterio. I really liked Mysterio. To date, I have not read a Mysterio story that I haven't liked. And I think that's probably a signal that he's a good character. The concept is not anything amazing, but you know what? He really does bring good stories, and I really, really enjoy him. So, Mysterio's on there. The Shocker I have a personal connection to because he was the first villain I ever used in the Spider-Man fanfiction. So, that's probably why, and the only reason he's on the top 10 list is just because I really, really have a personal connection with the Shocker. Excuse me. Another one would be Carnage. Like Thomas said, Thomas is batshit insane, but Carnage is batshit insane, and I love him. He's absolutely crazy. I love pretty much every Carnage story out there, except for that one Silver Surfer crossover with. Oh my gosh, that was terrible. What did Carnage Cosmic do? Whatever. Won't talk about that. Amazing 431. Just go read that. That's a terrible issue. I really like.
Here, go read this terrible issue, guys.
Yeah,
go read it. Feel my pain. Misery loves company.
Yes, go in the back issue bins and pay $10 for this one, children. Yeah, don't do it. But Amazing 431, that's a terrible Carnage story. But other than that, I really like Carnage. I felt that he really does make for good stories. And, he's a fairly solid villain. He's batshit insane, and I love that about him. Number 7, or not really number 7, but Kingpin would definitely be up there in my top 10.
Yeah.
Kingpin is a great villain. He was the main villain from the 90s animated series, which is probably why I love him so much. But I just love the idea that this is a guy that everyone knows is bad, but they physically can't prove it, which is kind of what it's been in the past, throughout the years. I really, really do like that concept, and I feel it's very strong. Another one would be Sandman, purely for his appearance in Spider-Man 3, and plus I just think, giant Sandman monster, absolutely epic. He's had some bad stories over the years, but you know what? I felt his good stories have outweighed his bad, so ultimately I felt that has benefited him a bit. Excuse me. Now on to my top 5. Number 5 would be Roderick Kingsley's Hobgoblin. Basically, like James said, that Roger Stern run in the 80s with the Hobgoblin, absolutely fantastic. There's nothing I can say that James hadn't already said, so Hobgoblin is number 5. Number 4 for me is Venom. Venom to me is not a great villain, but I really do like the concept, like Dave said, that he is just out to kill one guy. I like that concept, and plus I just like the fact that he has all of Spider-Man's powers, and he's kind of like the opposite of Spider-Man, like all of the power, none of the responsibility. I kind of
like if Spider-Man was looking in a funhouse mirror.
Yeah, I kind of like that a bit. That's a good concept that I do like. I like the concept behind Venom more than the execution of him. But Venom would be number 4. Number 3 for me would be Doc Ock. Like they said, classic Spider-Man villain. The first villain to ever really defeat Spider-Man in a big battle. And Doc Ock has not really been written well in the past 15 years or so. This run on Superior is probably the best Doc Ock has been written in the past 10 years. So I've given Superior a lot of crap on this podcast, on the website. The one thing they've nailed with Superior is the writing of Doc Ock. Doc Ock has definitely been written correctly throughout this entire series, and so I will give them credit for that. Doc Ock, in my opinion, a great villain, and one that's not always written well, but when he is, he's absolutely fantastic. Number 2, and this is one that I don't think either of these two mentioned on their list. I might be wrong. I don't remember exactly what your exact lists were, but the Lizard.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I love the Lizard just for the concept that this is kind of a Jekyll and Hyde character. Excuse me. I love the fact that this is kind of a Jekyll and Hyde character. He's kind of like an evil version of. I kind of compare him to an evil version of the Hulk, except, you know, obviously there are many drastic differences of that between them. But you know, I don't know if anyone sees the similarity there, but I
can see it. Yeah.
I love the Lizard. His plots in the 60s weren't fantastic, but I do like his more recent plots that overall, you know, he's just trying to be compassionate. He thinks that by changing everyone else into lizards, that it will benefit them. I kind of like that concept, and overall I felt that that was a good plot. And my number one Spider-Man villain, like both of these guys, is Norman Osborn. What can I say about Norman that hasn't already been said? Fantastic villain, definitive Spider-Man villain, and he's absolutely fantastic. So, any honorable mentions that we feel we should throw in there?
Honorable mention for me. You mentioned Kingpin. I have to go with Electro. I completely forgot about Electro for my list, which is weird because the movie's been on my mind at all times. So I probably should have put him as number 6 in the next size Beetle, but whatever. Electro definitely deserves a mention. Yeah, but I think Electro's stronger than Beetle by far. I just don't know why. I forgot Electro.
Yeah. It's like literally, if I had to go put honorable mention, it would be the Field. Like every other Spider-Man villain, because they're all, most of them, except for you know one or two that I can't even name them. I don't even remember them because they're probably so forgettable. But most of the villains, especially the Ditko Romita era villains, it's like, how do you put them all in a top 10 list? Someone's going to get the short change, and you're going to feel sorry for it because they all deserve to be there almost.
Yeah, I think that there's something very unique about Spider-Man's villains, that they're either forgettable and when they're memorable, they are memorable. You know these guys.
The same with Batman.
I would actually say Batman to a lesser extent is that, like, Poison Ivy, she's memorable, but she's not like, oh, I can name her off the top of my head at any given moment. Or Killer Croc, because because Batman has so many, like, quote unquote memorable villains, whereas Spider-Man has like this, like 20 or so people that Steve Ditko and Stan Lee created that you just know off the top of your head, and then the rest of them are kind of just forgettable cameos from other Marvel franchises. So.
Well, it's like I name Romita, but the only villain that Romita came up with that really sticked were Rhino and Shocker. Those were the two that he created. Every other one from the 60s is Ditko.
Yep. So I really like those.
Oh, and Romita Kingpin. We can't forget about Kingpin for him too.
Oh yeah.
And another thing. Wait a second, Jonathan. For 1 second. You brought up the Lizard and the comparison to Hulk, and you can't really see it. You can see the comparison between a scientist who did something and then became a gigantic green monster with ripped up purple pants.
Yep, pretty much. There we go.
I think it's pretty easy to see that connection, is that just like Hulk is generally more moving towards like, doing the right thing in his Hulk form, although we know that he has some, little blowouts from here,
the Hulk has problems. I would never know that.
Last time I was in New York, I kind of broke Harlem. That's a great line.
Reference. Woo! Okay. Yeah.
The best line. The best line is in the one that came on 2008 around the same time Iron Man came out, where they're trying to discover how to get from New York quick enough, and she's like, "What about the subway? Do you really want me to be in the most confined, claustrophobic area in New York City?" Good point.
and then he sees, the line was. And then he sees the rotor blades of the helicarrier, and he's like, "Oh no, this is much worse."
Oh yeah. They want me in a submerged pressurized metal tube, and it's like, as it goes up, oh no, this is much worse.
This is much worse. All right, but final thoughts on our top 10 Spider-Man villains.
There are just so many great ones, and it's hard to rank them. But if you notice, a lot of them really do come from Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, so you really gotta, tip your hats to those guys. But if there's any villain that I'm really eager to see on screen that we haven't seen already, it's Carnage. I really, really would like that. But
all right.
pretty much for me, it's like I was really tempted just to put the Sinister Six in there, just so I can put all the villains that are in the Sinister Six in the group, and I realized that's like cheating. But it's like, if we didn't name off your favorite villain, it just shows you how great Spider-Man villains are.
Yep.
All right. Yeah. But moving on to our next poster here, we got Spy-Coon. I think that's how it's pronounced. He's got 4 questions here, so he's actually getting the remainder of our questions. But his first question is, I'll be that guy. Do you guys prefer Spider-Man married or single, and why? Oh gosh, this question.
I'll go last.
I'll go second to last.
God damn it! I'm always first.
There's a reason for that, James. Go.
You're the newest member of the panel.
Read. Okay. Later half of the era, so I think that's only that I go, probably, right? Here's my honest answer, and I have said this for the last few years now. I don't care. As long as it's a good Spider-Man story, it's a good Spider-Man story. Yes, I love the marriage. I love his interaction with Mary Jane, but the wedding ring did not make that relationship great. Peter and Mary Jane made that relationship great. Yes, I'm kind of sad that some little stories now that I own and I love reading are now, they were just dating. But it doesn't really ruin the character for me. It's not that big of a deal. I'm not going to lie. When One More Day happened, I was as pissed off as everybody else. But now we're getting to the point where it's like, as long as the story is good. One More Day is still a piece of crap, don't get me wrong. But as long as the stories nowadays are good, I have no problems with him being married or not married.
All right. My opinion on this, like James, I don't care, to be quite honest with you. If the story's good, I don't really care if Spider-Man's married or not. It's like, I've never really cared. Because as long as the story's good, I'm happy. I don't care if Spider-Man's married, single, whatever. Divorced, widowed. It's like, I don't care. So, basically, I don't care. Thomas, go.
See, I'm gonna go along with you guys. I don't really care, but at the same time, I think that, like, OMD was bad. I think most people can agree that that was a bad story.
Worst Spider-Man story of all time.
Yeah, or one of them.
I burned my
at the
copy.
very least.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna be that person. I went to school the next day, brought my issues of the comic, and I literally asked if anybody wanted, and they asked me, "What's the story about?" I said, "Spider-Man makes the deal with the devil over his marriage." Everybody said, "No, I don't want. Why would I want to read that kind of story? That's kind of anti-Spider-Man." So I said, "Yeah, you had a point." So finally, at the end of the day, I just ripped up my issues. I didn't care. I wasted money. I was a teenager. I was stupid, but I did not care then.
Mm-hmm. And so, it's a bad story, but at the same time, I kind of like the differentiation. I thought that we had really good stories with Mary Jane and Peter being married. I kind of wanted to see what they could do with maybe bringing in some new girls in Peter's life, because we haven't had that for a while. So I do like kind of like that originality that comes with him being single, the kind of experimentation that you can do. I'm not the biggest Carly Cooper fan. I bet you could find bigger ones, but I don't hate her, and I actually do think she's a relatively good addition, although James would disagree with me. I don't mind her. So, you know, for me, it just depends on what kind of stories that you want to tell, and I have to admit that I didn't feel like the last few issues of Spider-Man and Mary Jane being married were all that inspired.
All right, so final thoughts on this question?
I'm just going to go back to what Thomas said. Yeah, if anybody, I'm going to say no comments to the Carly things. If anybody wants to see my opinion of her, just go to the forum the thread I made on the forum.
Yeah, I saw that. I haven't responded to it yet because I haven't been able to come up with an educated answer. But his
next... a lot of my reasonings for not liking her. It's not that she sucks because she sucks or because of the marriage. I gave my reasoning why the character, I don't like her, ignoring the whole she's not Mary Jane aspect.
Oh, yeah, I read the post. It's a very good post. It's very good. I recommend everyone going and checking it out.
Yeah, I read it too. I think he definitely has a point in that it's just a difference in taste kind of thing. But, yeah.
All right, his second question is, what kind of changes do you expect with Peter's return in the new Amazing Spider-Man? I'll go first. Basically, I just like anything that's better than what we got in Slot's first Amazing Run. Because here's the thing. What I've read of Slot's Amazing Run was awfully mediocre. I mean, I cannot think of a single issue I gave a grade higher than a C+ to. And so, it's just, I would like better quality stories, and I'd like Peter to be written correctly. Slott and Gage have been managing to do that with these last 6 issues of Superior, but I would like Slott to write Peter correctly. I would like the good old classic Peter Parker back. I would like to be able to recognize this character and say, that's Peter Parker, not saying, oh, that's some random whiny bitch saying he's Peter Parker. So that's what I would expect. James, what do you expect?
Basically, I expect, it is not necessarily what I want, it's just what I expect, and I expect that it's going back to the status quo. That it's already going there. I wouldn't be shocked if by the time we read Spider-Verse, he's living with Aunt May, he's dating Mary Jane, he's working at the Bugle, problems, he's not with the Avengers no more, everybody hates him because of what happened with the Goblin King. Everything's back to normal. All is right in the world in the Marvel land, I guess you can say.
All right, Thomas, what's your response to this question?
I'm going to agree with James that I think it's probably going back to the status quo, and I know that Slott said that he didn't want this to happen. I think that he personally doesn't want this to happen, but I think that everyone who knows the editorial behind this Marvel thing is that you want to bring him back to the status quo, and you want to keep him as close to status quo as you possibly can. So I think that that's probably where they're going to have to go back to, and I think Slott realized that and decided, like James said earlier, that he better make it on his own terms. So I think that was basically where we're going to end up at the beginning of this, kind of back to that same old status quo. And honestly, if they can tell original stories and everything, I'll probably be happy with that. I just, I didn't really hate how Slott wrote Peter Parker in, like, Ends of the Earth. I actually did like that arc. But for the most part, he had a little bit of trouble, I think, writing Spider-Man, and I hope that he can get back to the same kind of level of just kind of respect for Peter that he had for Otto during the Superior Spider-Man, because I think we can all agree that he really returned to Otto Octavius's core and made him a really good villain. So,
like I said, Ock hasn't been written well in 10 years, but Slott's been nailing it.
Exactly. So I hope that he can pour that same kind of passion back into Peter.
I mean, he's been doing a fairly decent job with Peter in these last couple of issues, but, you know, given all of his work on Amazing Spider-Man pre-Superior, I'm hoping for some improvement. I really am. It's just...
Yeah, and I also think at the same time that the limited amount of time that he's actually had to have Peter featured has also served him well, because now what's going to happen when he has an entire issue to dedicate to the character? Is it going to be back to what we had before?
That is my concern, is, you know, is Slott going to be able to keep this up when he has to center all of his stories around Peter?
Exactly.
But, yeah, so final thoughts on this question?
I just kind of, I think a lot of us kind of expect the return to the status quo.
All right. His third question is, what would you think if Peter kept seeing Anna Maria to spare her feelings, but also started seeing Mary Jane or Carly as well? Personally, that's out of character for me. I don't think Peter would pull a dick move
Peter's
like
not
that.
a cheater.
Peter is not a cheater. I don't think he would pull a dick move like that.
Yeah, I agree that he wouldn't cheat. I think that what the first part of his question, I think that's perfectly legitimate. Keep seeing Anna Maria to spare her feelings. I do not think that he would also see Mary Jane or Carly. I think he would stay, that it wouldn't be out of character for him to stay with Anna Maria to, you know, not feel guilt-ridden over yet another thing. But I don't think he would see Mary Jane or Carly as well. I think he has more respect for all of them.
I'm not saying it would be out of character for him to stay with Anna Maria. I'm saying it would be out of character for him to cheat on Anna Maria.
I know. I got what you were saying. I was just trying to say that I don't think that... I think the first part of his question is completely legitimate. I just don't think that the second part is going to happen.
All right, and his final question is, what would you think if Peter became a homosexual when he returns? Might be an interesting new direction? Anybody?
James already has a response to this, so... Let him talk.
Yeah, just get the hate mail on me. I'm gonna say this up decently so like, nobody can take this the wrong way. I have friends that are gay. I have friends that are lesbian. I have friends that are cross-dressing. I even know people who had the change in the operation. So I am not in any way homophobic. So I'm going to stop this right now. But no, I do not think that Peter Parker is going to end up being gay. That is out of character for him. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. It's just Peter Parker has dated women before. He has been in love with Gwen. He has been married in continuity. He's had kids. I just do not see them just, even if it's just for one story arc that he experiments, I don't see them doing it. And I'm going to save it at that. It's nothing anti-gay.
All right,
Gay
Thomas.
people are cool. I'm just stop it there.
I am also going to agree with James. I think that the way that they have established Peter over 50 years is not a person who's going to be gay. However, if they decided that they were going to make a new Peter Parker in another universe and everything and make him homosexual, I'm perfectly okay with that because it's a new character, it's a new Peter being formed from the ground up, and if you decided to keep all the other elements of Peter but just make him homosexual, that's fine. But at this point, Peter has been with so many women and everything, it would just seem like such a jarring kind of like move to the other direction. And I think that a lot of people would be completely right if they said it was PC. So I'm not against gays. I actually am a huge advocate for moving in the direction of marriage legalization and all this other stuff. I just do not see Peter being homosexual from everything we've seen so far from him. So if they wanted to create a new version, fine. But at this point, not really his style.
I'm going to be quite honest with you. I'm just going to basically advocate everything Thomas said and just leave it at that. So if you want to know my answer, see Thomas's answer. All right, so that's going to do it for the listener questions this week. Thank you to everyone, all the 2 people, who asked us questions this week. If you want to ask a question on the podcast, just go to the SpiderNerd forum. You can find a link to it on the front page of the website, SpiderNerd.com. At the top of every forum is a thread called Ask a Question on the Podcast, and just reply to it with your question. You can give us 10 questions. I don't care. Just no more than 10 questions. And if they're going to be 10, make them short. Yeah.
Don't ask us questions and then have us explain why. If it's going to be, you're going to post 20 of them.
Yeah, don't do that, please. Dear gosh. So thanks to everyone who submitted questions, and that's going to wrap up the questions part of this podcast, and we're still not done. We still have one piece of spoiler news to go over, and Thomas is going to lead us in this. Another featurette for The Amazing Spider-Man 2 has been released, and this is the featurette that I just posted on the front page yesterday for anyone who's, yesterday at the time of this recording. But the headline is Yet Another Featurette for The Amazing Spider-Man 2. So, Thomas, can you give us a brief summary of what this featurette is about?
It's courtesy of Entertainment Weekly, and it's talking about how they set up the future Spider-Man movies, talking about Gwen's fate and stuff like that. Not really anything too new. We already knew that they were going to start setting up the Sinister Six and stuff like that, so,
All right, thoughts on it?
It's an alright featurette. I mean, it's basically just restating all the stuff that we've heard before from Mark Webb and stuff, and they're going to start setting up the Sinister Six. We heard that this one was going to be, moving in that direction, so it's just basically about that. The expansion of Spider-Man's universe.
All right, James, thoughts on the featurette?
It was good. It's just completely the whole fact that they're pointing out the death of Gwen Stacy and how it's a part of the storylines of the comic and a part of her character. I think, and they're showing images of, we have little nods to it, or you see her in the dress and the green jacket and the boots, and then you see her looking at the bridge like, I love you. It's just everything, no matter how much they say we're not going their way and there's twists and turns, you are throwing so much the night that Gwen Stacy died into this. I don't know how you're not going to kill her off. I mean, how do you not do it?
I I know, I get exactly how you feel, but at the same time, I thought it was a lot more subtle before, where they just said, "Oh yeah, she's wearing." They didn't even say it. They just had her dressed up as that. I think hardcore Spider-Man fans already knew that, and then they have to go out and deliberately say that they are trying to give that kind of homage to that. It just seems a little over the top for me. So that part was a little bit. It had me scratching my head why they would even bother, because I'm pretty sure most people already made that connection, and now you're just giving it out to audiences that haven't read the comics just to say, oh yeah, she does die. And we're probably going in that direction.
Do we think that maybe they're setting us up for a massive fake out with Gwen's death and she's not actually going to die?
It is a possibility. I'm going to give you guys that, but at the same time, they have gone through so much trouble to make sure that they could pay homage to that with the costume and with bringing in Green Goblin. I just don't see how they would not do it at this point.
All right, James, what were you going to say?
Oh, sorry, my brother just interrupted me for a second. Yeah, it's just, I don't know how to explain it. It's just, I just got this feeling she's going to die. If she doesn't, I'm not going to be upset about it or be all mad. Oh, why didn't they do the death? I'm not going to. Maybe a pleasant surprise. But just everything just makes me think she's dead. If Emma Stone opens her mouth, they open their mouth, or it's a picture or a trailer. I just think when I see anything that falls around the night Gwen Stacy dies, she's dead. I mean, earlier today, my parents were watching Spider-Man 3, and it was at the scene with Gwen, and I walked by and said, "You're going to die in an Amazing Spider-Man 2." Everything just makes me think she's dying.
Your parents are Spider-Man fans?
No, it was like the only thing on. Them and my sister was watching it this morning, and it was at the scene where he's going to propose at the French restaurant, and Gwen shows up and pretty much cockblocks him.
Oh yeah. I remember that scene. And then he's all upset. He's all like confused on why Mary Jane's so mad that he kissed Gwen. Are you serious?
Do you have a brain?
There? Were you not flipping there? Were you not there when you kissed Gwen? How does he not know the answer to these questions? I would be upset.
Simple. It's Peter Parker. He's like this even in the comics. Well, not so much the kissing aspect, but when it comes to his relationships, he is kind of like any guy would be like, well, what the hell did I do?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure most guys would know that they did something wrong. I'm pretty sure
there is times I have done things that have pissed off my girlfriend that have got me to be thinking, well, what the hell did I do wrong? Like, literally, there was one time I told my girlfriend I thought she looked beautiful today. This was like a few years ago when I dated a girl, and her exact reply to me back was, "Oh, so I was ugly yesterday?"
Nice. I hate when girls do that.
Oh, ouch. Oh, man. Oh, yeah, I totally know how that feels because
of
my mom.
Yes, I agree with Peter. Did you just say your mom?
Yes, because I feel so bad because my stepdad will be like saying something like that, and then she'll get like really mad at him for it. So I know how that would feel. Although I haven't personally experienced it, so I don't really know if that was warranted. But yeah, I can understand how that would feel, entrapping.
All right, but I gotta say, this whole Gwen Stacy thing with her dying, I don't know if she's dying in the movie or not. To me, they could be setting us up for a fake out, or they could just be shoving it directly in our face so that we won't guess it. But you know what? The biggest thing for me that I took away from this featurette was that they kind of semi-confirmed Sinister Six and Amazing Spider-Man 3, maybe?
I don't think that was where they were going. I think that what we're probably going to see is I think we're going to have the movie that is shooting in October. A lot of people are saying it's The Amazing Spider-Man 3. I think that's Venom, and that Venom's coming out at the end of next year. And then we're going to have The Amazing Spider-Man 3 film beginning of next year, and it's going to be in 2016. And then in 2017 we're going to get Sinister Six. And then in 2018, we're going to get The Amazing Spider-Man 4, which is going to be him fighting the Sinister Six.
All right. I'd say that's a very...
I still don't see how they can do a Sinister Six movie without Spider-Man. Unless it's
I think it might be like Avengers, kind of like forming the team. Just like the first hour and a half of the Avengers is going to be what the movie is.
maybe. I mean, I've heard some people compare it to Superior Foes of Spider-Man.
I don't know if they would pull that off with the big names that they got. They got Electro and stuff coming in. I don't know if they would pull that off.
Yeah, they can't pull off what they've managed to do with Superior Foes, but they can. I do see what Thomas is saying, but I kind of see what both of you are saying. I don't know. I'm kind of mixed on a Sinister Six movie, to be honest. I don't really know how to feel about it, but
I think it might be a little bit of a stretch. Quite honestly, I think I know that they only have Spider-Man, and that's fine that they want to expand their property, but I mean, like, use like Scarlet Spider and make him Miles Morales or something like that. Just this is going too far for me.
If you're gonna expand it, do the Venom Lethal Protector or Flash Thompson thing. Do Venom. Then do Spider-Woman. Then do Spider-Girl. Then do other Spider-Man heroes. Don't make a Sinister Six movie, because I just don't. For some reason, it just does not compute with me. I just think that as a guy hear about it, I think no, they need Spider-Man.
All right, but final thoughts on this featurette.
We always knew that they were going to expand it out. I mean, like, this is mostly me complaining about the Sinister Six even being a movie, but we knew that since December that there was going to be a Sinister Six movie, and we always knew that this was going to be branching out the universe. So it's not really anything new, except that they're shoving Gwen's death down our throats now.
So. All right, James, final thoughts?
I got a question for you guys. If their end game is the Sinister Six, let's say that's Amazing Spider-Man 4. And let's say Amazing Spider-Man 3 is him versus Venom because of what the Venom spin-off sets off. Does that mean that by making Harry the Goblin and dying in the night that Gwen Stacy died, and Norman supposedly dying in this movie, that they're wrapping off Oscorp in this movie? Why they're just getting it all done with now? So that way 2 can be Venom and 3 can be the Sinister Six?
No.
Or Norman's going to be a part of Sinister Six in 4?
I think Norman's not died.
I think Norman's going to be part of the Sinister Six. I think Oscorp, with the way that they've set it up, is going to be the biggest villain. They're going to be responsible for everything.
They're going to be the major overarching villain. Yeah.
Exactly. So,
yeah,
that's my thoughts on it.
All right, but that's going to do it for spoiler news this week, and it's also going to do it for this episode of the SpiderNerd podcast. It's been a long one, but it's been an enjoyable one. So, Thomas, final words for the listeners before we sign off?
No, but get ready, because next month, it's going to be big. Spider-Man-wise, and just, Marvel fan-wise, we'll have Captain America the first week, and then you just keep going all the way through. So I'm super excited.
All right, James, final words for the listeners. I bet I can guess what they are.
Yeah, tune in to Angel Grove. We got some big news, guys. Big super news. You're going to not want to miss it.
Yeah, James, let me in on the news. It's pretty big. You want to tune in. You really do. All right, and my final words for the listeners are keep checking out SpiderNerd.com. Got some cool stuff coming up there. And, we'll see you guys next week.